nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody to a special meeting of the town board. First thing we'll do quickly is the approval of the agenda. I'm going to want to do the controller's report first, then going into the fracking ban. With the fracking ban, I did put a letter in, I think, about elected leaders that I'll just add on and talk about in a quick second, but it's part of the fracking stuff. There's an approval for a pump for Sewer 6 that I needed to put on the agenda, and I'll explain it to you. The court officer, which John Katz had sent me something, and it would need board approval if we do this. And it's up to you guys. I sent you at the last minute, you might not have seen it, the Studley contract for their Barn Fest that they have October 13th. So if you guys are willing to add it now, we could do it next month, but it's a pretty standard contract that they've been doing for all those years. So if it's okay with everybody, I'll add that to the agenda.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, and I think that's all I have to add to the agenda. So if that's okay with everybody, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Well, I would make a second just for discussion.
Sure.
Second for discussion, I'd like to remove the court officer. We probably shouldn't be discussing that. One is we did pass a local law that we are to seek out first people that are residents of the town and or village of New Paltz, and this person is not a resident of the community. And we haven't done any advertising, or we haven't done anything at all to try to reach out to our community about it. So I think we should put this off till we reach out to our community and see if someone's willing to
Is there
fill
a
the position
list?
locally.
Well, no, there isn't.
Can we
If it's
say-
okay
No,
if we...
there's not a list on this one.
Yeah.
It's considered a part, it's traditionally taken usually by,
Oh, it is a part-time,
it's just,
right.
it's below part-time.
So it's non-competitive.
It's a non-competitive, so anyone who is a peace officer in New York State is eligible for it. So I'm sure we have someone, so I'd like to just remove that.
Well, if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to keep it on only from the perspective of to talk about what the situation is, why they're recommending this person, and then we can decide whether or not at that point if you want to...
Well, we're breaking a law actually by just hiring this person without even having it advertised in our community or reached out to our
Well-
community to do it.
Well,
So-
then why don't we keep it on the agenda so we can talk about it, and then we could authorize advertising
Okay.
if that's what we want to do.
So when it's on the agenda, we'll announce that it has not been properly noticed.
Or
And-
I can talk about how it came up and what it's about, why it's on the agenda, and then we can decide how we want to move forward. And then we
So-
can make it take an action to actually move it forward. Because the most important
Okay,
thing...
that's fine. No, that we can take action to either follow the law or break the law. That's fine. So, yeah, let's leave it on. That's fine.
Well,
That's,
it's not a matter of following it or whatever, it's a matter of even if we need to bring in a court officer and we want to go through a process, then let's authorize the process, but at least let's get it going. So if we table it,
Right.
we're not
okay,
authorizing...
no, that's fine. We've already,
Okay.
the process is to follow the law, which is the law is to...
I understand, that, but I
So-
know, but there's a vacancy, and so...
Right.
So
Right,
can we
okay.
just keep it on the agenda, discuss it when we're
Yes,
time? Okay.
fine. No, let it go.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I made the motion, I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Public input. Anybody want to speak? Okay, what we ask is, of course, come close so the microphones and the TV can catch you.
If I sit down?
Yep.
Sounds like
And what I'd like to do before Don does speak is I would just like to thank Ray Schulke from Ins and Outs for the incredible job that he's done making the Town of New Paltz Town Board meetings sound appropriate. And so from the last meeting when Ray did all of the work that he did, people have all been commenting that when they watched the TV show, when they watched this on TV, which everybody seems to watch, they could finally hear it, and that the sound was really great, and they could follow it and watch it. And so I'd like to thank Ins and Outs for what he had done. Was the last meeting he came in and actually did us a favor because he didn't have the equipment, but he set everything up so the last meeting could be heard, and especially with the Ken Bond presentation, we wanted people to be able to hear it. And now this is actually all our equipment and whatever, but I'd like to just acknowledge that the Ins and Outs did a great job, and so thank you. And now,
Here, here. Yeah, right.
that was an issue we tried to address for a long time, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to speak about my committee work on two committees, which is why I sat down here quasi officially. I'd like to suggest that it'd probably be productive for the Public Access Committee to be on the agenda, because there's a number of little items that are kind of sometimes have fallen through the cracks just because we don't talk too often. I know, Susan, you and I communicate well, and I appreciate that. One thing I wanted to speak about was an action that was taken last meeting with regard to the intermunicipal agreement, or the IMA. And had I been here, and I wasn't, and that's my bad, I would have been able to explain some of the history with that. For a couple of years now, we've been trying to have an intermunicipal agreement which would survive governments and members of governments. Channel 23 and public access has never been controversial, and it works pretty well right now, and we'd like to put something in place to institutionalize that. So that was the genesis of the idea to have an agreement that the village and the town would both sign. As we came up with the idea, it was to be a permanent agreement. And I did watch on Channel 23, which is a great thing, the last meeting, and there wasn't a big debate. It was, hey, the attorney suggests we have all our contracts end at the end of the year. So I saw how it came to pass. The Public Access Committee did meet on Monday, and all the members were there, and we really felt strongly as a committee that we would love to see a version of that passed that married and was consistent with what the village passed, which has no expiration date. That would be our really strong request and recommendation. But we understand the deference to the attorney. So as a second next best thing, if it was possible to amend it to add some language that would say that this agreement would be renewed annually at the reorg meeting.
Which I think we actually did.
We
If I
did.
remember correctly,
Did
I
you?
think that's what
If
we
that's-
put in, that it would be
sweet.
on the... that it would be-
Never mind. I haven't actually seen the. Okay, well, that's great. So then, well, you have. We are satisfied with that. We're really good with that. We did hear some disappointing news that town member Dave Lent is going to be resigning from the committee. Dave negotiated the franchise agreement as town supervisor in 1995, and he's been invaluable in dealing with Time Warner. He did say that he was only going to be on the committee until the franchise agreement was renewed. That was 7 years ago. So we think Dave's paid his dues, and I think Dave has recommended to the committee from his long experience with Time Warner, and I concur, that they're just not going to work with us, and we think legal action is probably the best course of action. That pains me. We've worked really hard to work with them, and we've involved the Public Service Commission. We've done all the right things, and they've just been, they have not worked in good faith. And we don't see it getting better. So, Dave in his wisdom made that recommendation at the last meeting, and we all came to agree with him, and I'll pass it on to you as some information from the Public Access Committee. Put on a different hat. I want to speak a little bit about my work on the Human Resources Subcommittee, where I sit with Kevin and with Randall Leverett, Brian Kimbitz, Amy Blueberry-Cohen, and Russ Pollock. What I'm about to talk about and how the town council responds has the potential to affect, for better or worse, the next generation of town residents and taxpayers. One of the things that our subcommittee's been looking at is the various benefits packages of different bargaining groups. We're looking at the employees in the town and the village, and we found the benefits in some cases to be from a different era. They made sense at the time when healthcare was inexpensive and easy to provide, but the benefits that we still provide to our municipal employees, both on the village and on the town side, they make no sense in this environment. I don't want to go into examples, but they can be really generous. And the one thing we talked about, as far as the current municipal employees, their benefits are, they're sacrosanct, they're sacred, and can't be touched. But I think where we're probably going to go is talking about a new tier for new hires, which would be less generous. We just can't afford to be giving out the same benefits packages we were in the 80s and 90s, and it's a real crisis. So I also wanted to urge, because the Consolidation Subcommittee on Human Resources is talking about this, and Kevin's been really put a lot of work into generating an end product, that there be no permanent hires between now and the time that the consolidation question is settled. Because, well, firstly, we become potted plants. If we're looking at this issue and in the middle of it, there are generation-long commitments made. Because when you hire an employee on a civil service basis, they're there. And these benefits carry over into retirement for life. So we haven't gone there yet. It's not official yet, but I think given the sense of what we're talking about and given some of the things that are going on right now in the town, I figured it was timely to give you a heads up that might be what you're going to be hearing about, and just keep that in mind as you go through any decisions and discussions you may be having over the next couple of meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Don, just a quick aside. When we have our workshop meetings the third Wednesday, where we do committee stuff, at any given point, if you want to be on the agenda to come speak with us, that's the time, to do it, is like, to call me up and say, I'd like to come, for the third Thursday, and, and do that stuff.
calling
that's
you
like,
is the way to do it?
yeah, so like, that's like with the ethics stuff, we sort of been putting them on somewhat around then, and other, other.
It's been chicken season, you've been
Yeah,
busy. I
so,
understand
yeah,
it.
so that would be great. Thanks. And then just in terms of Time Warner, what I might do is make the phone call to the bigger boss and sort of give him forewarning and see if there's.
Tell them what our recommendation
Yeah,
is.
I'm going to do
You
that.
haven't owned it yet, so.
That's what I'm gonna
get some
do.
leverage.
That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, great. Anybody else who would like to speak?
I just have a question.
Why don't you come up and, well, because of the camera, so people,
It's just a question, do we have an option of inviting some other cable? Is there any other cable company we can invite to put in a competing bid with Time Warner?
basically, my understanding is, and Don could say it better, but I
That's fine.
sort of looked into this earlier on, but Time Warner is the one who invested all the money into the infrastructure, into the community. They own that infrastructure, and in order for somebody to come in now and wire new poles, it would probably be cost prohibitive. So it's probably not that easy of a thing to do.
Verizon stopped at Newburgh with Fios. If they come north, that might be an option, but it's not coming
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
It's not coming down.
We just have to hope that when we get chips in our hands and we don't need cable TV anymore, but anyway. But so, yeah, I've been looking into that, and I don't think it's much of an option, unfortunately.
There is satellite TV, but
You don't get Channel 23.
Channel 23.
Right.
But
Well,
you
we
can
could
watch
also
it on
put
New
them just
Paltz
on the internet.
Living.
What?
We could also put the meetings just on the internet and ignore
Exactly.
Channel 23, but then
Uh-huh.
you're locking out a whole group of people.
Right, well, so, anyway.
And you don't
But-
think FiOS will grow enough in the next couple of years?
No, individuals would have to go to
Yeah,
satellite.
yeah. And I think that's what I was going to say with the satellite. It's
Right.
people's choices, and so, anyway, when satellite doesn't carry the Yankees, people go back to cable. I know that for a fact, trust me. So anyway, anybody else with public input? Okay, with that, I do have one announcement that I'd like to read, and that is from Bill Russell from the pool. Hi, Carol, can you pass this on to Susan and board members? Today I received, and he got this is August 29th, so this was Wednesday, yesterday. Today I received a check in the amount of $200 from the MDSA, Minnewaska Distance Swimmer Association, as a donation to Moriello Pool to be used towards equipment or other worthy projects. Obviously, it is up to us what to spend it on, but I was told that they would like the $200 to be used toward needed pool equipment. I was thinking the pool slide, he has in parentheses, which was exactly what I was thinking. Though it's not a lot of money in comparison to the overall Moriello Pool budget, it's nonetheless a generous and thoughtful gift. So thank you to the Minnewaska Distance Swimmer Association for thinking of us and making that donation, and I just wanted to make that public. So at some point, we could talk about where and how we want to go with this, but it's not on the agenda for tonight. And I don't know if there's any other announcements the board members would like to jump in and add. Okay. So next is the controller's report. I have copies here for any of the press or anybody who would like to get copies, and of course, here comes the press jumping up. And what I need to do a little preface before I get into the report, and it's just a little historical perspective. Being that I am probably the only person with the unique opportunity to have served 2 tours of duty. I was here before, and now I'm here again, so I have a point of comparison. And when I took over as supervisor from Dave Lent, I have to compliment Supervisor Dave Lent for the phenomenal job that he did managing the town finances and the shape that he left the town in when I came in. And so when I came in, I just had to pick up where he left off and manage the town into the future. And we were able to get the annual report done and filed March 31st. There were no problems. With the help of Helen Majestic, the then bookkeeper, and then Jean Gallucci, who became my bookkeeper afterwards, every annual report was done in time because we managed the finances in such a way that it wasn't problematic. Coming in this year, I wish I could say the same thing, but it's been incredibly distressing in terms of the financial situation in regards to what we were left with. And so since I've gotten into office in January, we've been spending so much time looking back in terms of collecting revenues that were not kept on top of, whether it was $50,000 from a state grant for the consolidation, whether it was going after FEMA money and getting $75,000 that we're going to be getting for FEMA that was never gone after. We had to put all the paperwork together. Thank God, our former highway superintendent, Mike Nielsen, when the FEMA meetings were happening, he went up with Carol West. They applied on behalf of the town, and because of the work that they had done, that allowed the town to piggyback on what the highway department did. And so all the FEMA stuff that we're now getting, that's going to come back to the tune of $75,000 that we all put together, we're able to do that under the highway superintendent's number, and that's why we're getting the money. There was $13,000 from a grant with the Open Space Committee. There's a letter that I just got from the Hudson Valley Greenway just the other day that basically said that in 2010 your grant was due. We wrote to you in 2011, and now it's 2012, and if you don't want the $7,500 that you're due, we'll give it to another municipality, of which I called right away and said, we want the money, what do I have to do to get the money? And we will have the paperwork in very, very shortly. And like I've said before, what's of great concern is those are what's being brought to my attention. So what's out there that we're not collecting because I don't know about, or, and so it's been really, really disconcerting. It took us 8 months to get the annual report together. We filed that 2 weeks ago, but it was 8 months, meaning it was 5 months late. We just got this controller's report, which shows that we have a lot of work to do. A lot of the work that is in the report, a lot of it this board has already put into place because I had met with the controller's office probably my second week in office, and we had a informal meeting, and he gave me somewhat of an update. So a lot of the stuff that I knew was coming down, we as a board have already taken care of, whether it was taking care of the recreation in terms of when we did that process that was a little controversial, but we had to do it, in terms of not allowing people to come and pay for the programs, but having the person who rents the place write the check and then they collect the money. Kevin and Jeff did a lot of work on that. They met a lot of resistance, but it was what we had to do based on the controller's report of how we collect money and how we handle money. Things like the minutes, which were not being done timely in the past. Rosanna, our new town clerk, has been absolutely astounding on this. We've been getting minutes literally 2 days afterwards. We're completely up to date. So some of that stuff has been done, and we've been working on with Councilwoman Jean Gallucci here, always keeping us in check and telling us what we have to do. We've been doing a lot of things right based on the controller's report in terms of how we approve certain things, and part of the reason the Sewer 6 thing is on here is because of what came out of the conversation with the controller 2 days ago when he came in to do an exit interview. And so we are putting things in place, but there are a lot of things that we have to take care of, especially when it comes to the sewer and water, and how money was changed between different funds, whether it was the A fund or different sewer and water districts, and the fact that almost all of those sewer funds are, their fund balances are depleted, and we have to figure out how we're going to raise the money, pay the districts back that lent the money to the other districts, and see how we're going to solve those problems. And so that's all in the works. What I find really distressing, though, is how we as a board put certain procedures in place so when we're not here, future boards and future supervisors can't allow us to get back to the shape that I found us in when we walked in January. And it's just not acceptable. And the public might not like floodplain laws, they might not like wetlands law, they might not like us not taking on the chicken law. That's fine. Anybody can disagree with us in terms of policy and how we proceed. But when it comes to finances, I think everybody expects that their town board manages their finances in a way that they know that we have a solid basis of their money and their money is safe and we're not going to bankrupt the town. And that's our responsibility as a board, to make sure we're doing the job to manage the finances of the town. And so we have a lot of work to do. And like I said, it's been really unnerving these past 8 months, not really knowing the past and trying to get on top of it. Managing a 2012 budget, which we all know had its own little story in terms of how that budget was done and how that was not properly vetted and there was not a public hearing on it, and we don't really know if the revenues are real. We already know that the recycling center's personal services is overspent. Bill Russell told me that because in the budget, $5,000 was just taken out of his personnel for his lifeguards. So he said when he puts together a budget for lifeguards, how many days is the pool open? How many pool hours does the pool operate? How many lifeguards do I need? Here's my budget. So just arbitrarily taking $5,000 off of it without saying we're going to cut back the hours or cut back the days puts us in a bind, because now we don't have enough money to pay for the lifeguards and stuff. So we don't even know where the 2012 budget's going to net out, and so it's again been really, really unnerving. And but what I can say is that I can promise you that this town board is committed to making sure that we do everything right. There will be a corrective policy that will be put in place that has to be back to the controller within 90 days. I was very clear to them. Technically, you'll see that this is a draft, mock draft, and you'll see it says all over that this was not to be released until we as a board gave them our response to how we're going to correct everything. Then they put that in, and then they release it with our response. And I basically said to the controller's office that I was not going to challenge anything that's in this report, that it was just going to be our goal to correct everything that's in this report and put a plan forward, and that because we've been talking about this for so long, that I didn't want to hold this back from the public, and because we're about to go into a budget process and we have to deal with correcting a lot of the problems that have been brought to our attention, we're going to be needing to talk about this publicly in these meetings for the next 90 days because the budget's due September 30th. And so you all have a draft copy. We will be working on a response. A lot of it, like I said, we've already taken care of it. A lot of it's going to take a lot of hard work when it comes to the sewer and water and correcting and paying back the different funds that have lent money. So, for example, I live in the town outside the village. I have no sewer and water, but I've been paying for sewer and water for residents who have sewer and water. Other people in other districts have been paying, so we have to correct all that stuff, and that's going to be some work, and we'll do that through the budget process. This is really up to the board, I could read the executive summary really quickly, or people have a copy of it, and then if anybody wants it, they can get it.
Well, the only thing I would like to challenge is, because when I read this, it was not unexpected. But I don't think it's fair to say that the board did not have oversight of the water and sewer expenditures, because I would say for the last 2 years at every board meeting, Jeff Logan said, how can I sign these vouchers where there is no money left in that line? And the answer was always that the controller has advised us that we could do these two firms. So I don't know where that information came from, but what should we have done? If you don't have the money, were we supposed to bill those people at the end of the year with a special catch-up?
Well, I could, why don't you jump in, Jean?
It was just getting to be significant amounts of money. What should we have done?
We needed to increase rates.
Which we did.
Okay, and if that
And
wasn't...
they don't note that in here.
Okay, then
Well,
you needed, if you didn't increase rates enough, you needed to increase rates more. But you are allowed to do due-tos for, under the state comptroller, within certain funds. The problem here that I suspect is that the due-tos were not paid back within 1 year. And that's the bottom line. When you borrow money from your general fund to help pay anything in water or sewer, that particular water or sewer fund has to pay your general fund, which is your town-wide, within a year.
Right. So should we have raised the water rates on sewer 6? Should we have raised the water rates to pay that back? Or
No,
should there have
it
been
would
a
have been
special?
the sewer rates should have been raised.
I'm sorry, the sewer rates.
Right,
To cover the amount due in that year is what we should have done.
yes.
But simultaneously, as I understand it, you two could correct me if I'm wrong, but what my understanding is that the village raised the rates 150%, and for a couple of years, you didn't raise the rates when the village raised them, that the rates weren't raised, and so what happened was you were depleting the fund balances, so the money you were charging the residents was not the money you were paying the village. So you were charging the residents one rate, you were paying the village a lot more, and when you finally did raise the rates, it was a couple of years later. I mean, Jason, the mayor's already said that they're going to probably be raising the rates again very shortly.
But that happened when Jason was mayor the first time and Don was supervisor. And I do remember raising the rates to cover, I mean, it was a big blow, and we had a lot of complaints from it. So I'm surprised, I mean, I don't know if they went back to an old rate or something, because it was with great reluctance that we had to pass on that 150%.
Which you had no choice, I mean, because of the
Right.
situation of the town and the village and the infrastructure situation. But it's my understanding, and I can go back, Kitty, and try to really look through, I mean, I have looked through some of the minutes, and I saw in one particular meeting where it was a very big discussion about Sewer 6, where Jeff was consistently fighting with the supervisor in regards to what needed to be done, and and what Jeff asked to be done did not happen. And so, there is history in a sense, but my understanding is the rates were not raised appropriately when they needed to be. The fund balance was sort of depleted.
Can we go back and see what the rates were that we were charging?
Yeah, we can, but I mean, the controller has looked at all that stuff, so in a sense to say that the controller didn't catch it, they not only do they review all of the documents, they go back and review all of the minutes. So they look at all the minutes,
But
they
it's the
look at everything, and
billing.
they,
I mean, if we
Right.
agreed to raise the rates, and the bills that went out did not reflect those rates, then there was some breakdown in communication. And
I don't think that's what happened. I'll try to,
I think though, I know in the sewer we were never, and Gene, not to correct you, it's just that the actual loan, and I remember giving the copy of the law to supervisor back then, was you don't even get 12 months to pay it back. It has to be paid back in the same fiscal year.
Yes.
So actually,
Yeah.
it's even worse. Sometimes you could.
It's even shorter
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
12 months.
Yeah, oh yeah, you
Right,
took
right.
a loan in November,
Right.
which actually was done. I remember October, November, we had a big repair.
So
It
you
was
have a month
cold.
or two.
And virtually we had no time at all to repay it, but we were reassured that we were within the controllers. Though I couldn't find anything to agree with
Well-
it. And I think, Kevin, this is something that's very true too, and Kitty, and here's where, I can certainly admit that, I failed, is that even though we continued to monitor, and we're being told it was being done, it never was being done.
Right.
But-
And that's what we should have been doing. The water rates, I think they did miss. I do believe in the controller's report in Water District, I believe in, is it
well,
one or three?
they have the whole,
I believe we changed the rates after this.
October and November.
October, November, and we did that with
Yeah.
Dave's office. So I do believe these have all been changed. I have to go back and find my file on the water rates. So we did do the water. I can guarantee you Sewer 6 is still in a tremendous deficit, and it
But
far exceeds even
You
what
just
they're.
said something really interesting, and that was that you had a major repair. And so that you would handle differently than simply increasing your rates. I mean, you could have done a short-term bond and then turned it over
Well,
to the users.
The problem was we couldn't get a
tax-
short-term bond
You
because we didn't have any of our audit paperwork in,
Oh,
so
okay,
no one was
okay,
doing.
all right.
So, I mean, it was, then
All
that
right,
became, if you read the minutes, that became another ugly conversation.
Okay.
Okay, why can't we get a bond? We couldn't
Okay.
get a bond.
And that-
Hence why we still have that,
Right.
the bond anticipation, we have still that
And-
anticipation note out there because we couldn't get bonded because we weren't getting our audit paperwork in.
Okay.
which I will go to Sewer 6.
Which is a whole different-
Which I'll go to Sewer 6 for a second, but actually what you bring up, Jeff,
It is an impetus.
Oh,
Absolutely.
apparently banks want to know what type of financial situation you're in for some
Yes.
silly reason. I don't know why, but they do.
But you bring up a point in the fact that it also, that the board, what the audit shows is that the annual reports that were never done in a timely manner.
Right.
And stuff, and that was one of the problems, was it was done in a timely manner. What I can say is that we are going to be bringing the outside auditor back in about 2 months. She's gonna start to go back and look at, now that we've finally rectified 2011, 8 months later, she's now gonna come in and start to make sure 2012, that everything up until, like November, December, that everything in 2012 is in place. So when we close out the year in January, the paperwork to get the annual report on March 31st will be in place, and it will be filed in a timely manner. So we are gonna start right now to make sure that there's no glitches with 2012, so we can get our paperwork done in time, which will be something that we respond to in here. In terms of Sewer 6, and I had a conversation with the controller when we did the exit interview about Sewer 6 being a special problem in of itself, and how it's not going to, we'll try to figure out how to do this, but to take a step back, relative to Sewer 6, Dave Clauser came in, we brought in the Sewer 6 people, we did that presentation, we spent money, we had Dave develop a new sewer plan, and so Dave and I went to meet with Willie Janeway, the head of the DEC, and Sansalone from the DEC to talk about Sewer 6. And what we did was we showed them what the new plan was and they still have somewhat of a concern about Sewer 6, even if it's a brand-new plant, that you still have a plant that's 50 feet from somebody's door, and it's not supposed to be there. And so they would like to see Sewer 6 taken out of there and possibly having us put our Sewer 6 into the village sewer plant, and that's what they want to see happen, but that opens up another whole conversation. So what I said to them was that with Sewer 6, it's a bigger problem, I said, because we have a controller's report that basically in order for us to, as a town board, to comply with the report at the end of the year, we have to get the Sewer 6 finances taken care of and paid for and whatever. And I said, that's not possible for us to possibly, I said, that we have to deal with that whole problem with the controller. So what the DEC said was what they wanted to do was actually bring the controller's office in, bring the DEC in, bring the mayor, bring myself in, and sit down and have a comprehensive conversation about how we move forward, because they understand that it's a bigger issue than just paying back the users, because we have the bigger problem of the sewer plant. When we talked about Sewer 6 and about going into the village plant, I explained that there's a law in place about that we can't connect into the village sewer unless we do annexation, and Sewer 6 is all the way out there. And so Willie Janeway said, well, Susan, what about the consolidation? If you do consolidation, Sewer 6 is then part of the district. And I said, we can't wait to solve Sewer 6 problems while we wait for the consolidation. And I said that basically every day we don't fix Sewer 6, every day we're spending more money. And you're going to see tonight we're going to have to authorize $600 for a pump for Sewer 6. So I said, every day we don't fix the problem, we're only getting ourselves further and further into debt. And so this is the situation we have to have. So Jason and I have been having conversations. We're going to have to go back into the DEC, and we're going to have to come up with some kind of solution in terms of how we move forward. Maybe it is doing some kind of bond, while we try to solve the Sewer 6 problem, so we could pay everybody back.
But
and
we can't overburden them. They're
I know, and that's what I keep
And I
saying.
could use
it's a
identify for
handful.
everyone where Sewer 6 is, because we keep referring to it by number
Sewer
only.
6 is a standalone sewer system that's out on North Ohioville Road.
And it has approximately,
And
Serving
go
how
ahead.
many, how many?
it has about 40
users.
40 users.
Is it
about.
that many?
That will never-
I
Well,
didn't
that
think
includes
it
the
was-
businesses and the residents. There's about 40
Ah,
users, a little less. So
okay.
just
So
so
it is-
everyone knows where it is, it's on South
Right.
Ohioville.
So what you have
other side of the
what you have right now is a situation where you have a sewer plant that's very labor intensive, that costs a lot of money to sustain and maintain, and you don't have enough users to offset that cost.
Right.
And now those poor users have now incurred an indebtedness that's beyond their ability to pay, and so it's a double whammy. And how do we solve this problem in a way that we don't burden those particular taxpayers is going to take an act of God, but hopefully working with the DEC and the Controller's Office will have God come down to New Paltz and say, we solved the problem. But I don't know if it's going to be that simple. But, there are some things in here, of course, that are, in terms of, some of the things that are of the bigger concern is like when it says town officials have no assurance that proper amounts were collected, or if all collected amounts were properly recorded and deposited, that there's no assurance that all cash is collected at approved rates, which is what you're talking about, Kitty, or that all cash collected is properly recorded or deposited. Therefore, the potential exists for error or how do you say that word? How do you say it? Irregularities to occur and not to be detected. I mean, that's concerning that in a sense, that we might not have things in place that say that money that's supposed to be deposited might not have made it into the proper bank account and stuff. So we have work to do, and we'll
We
do
need
it.
to improve on internal controls.
Absolutely, and stuff. So we're putting that in place, and we have to, and there's certain things we're going to start doing just like we have already been doing from the perspective of, like when Jean said that we had to approve the drivers for the bus contract. That's exactly what we have to be doing, but Jean is already having us do the right thing. When we had to approve the lifeguards, that wasn't done in the past, but Jean said, no, this is the way we have to do it.
The recreation problem in here has
Exactly.
been solved.
Right,
thanks
exactly.
to Kevin and Jeff.
Right. So,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
again, like I said, I knew that was a problem because I had that meeting with the controller early on, which is why I said to Kevin and Jeff, you got to solve this problem, because it's going to be in the controller's report. And so it was really a pleasure to say to the controller, okay, we've already,
You can
we've
check
we've
that
taken, we've
off.
taken care of the recreation problem, we've taken care of the minutes, we've taken care of whatever, and now can we sit and talk about how I'm going to solve the sewer and water and what we're going to do? And so it was a nicer way to go into a meeting with the controller to say, we heard what you said, we've been acting as a board to take care of what we need to take care of, we take this very seriously, we're trying to put this all in place, and we will make sure that we put things in place so in the future, this doesn't happen again, and we have to find a way that, again, future boards have to follow certain policies, and future supervisors have to do things correct, so this doesn't happen again, because I would really hate for anybody to ever have to walk into what I walked into. And Jeff used to say to me when he was trying to get me to run for office, he used to say to me all the time, you don't know how bad things are, you don't know how bad things are. Then after I got into office, I would turn to say to Jeff, when he'd say, I told you things are bad, and I would turn to Jeff and say, you don't know how bad things really are. And so, so I'm not happy saying it. It's 8 months later. It's been a really, like I said, I don't feel like the financial ground enough, underneath me is secure, but we're trying to do the best we can to make sure we get our financial house in order and the taxpayers don't get burdened for mistakes that were made in the past. But it's really, really, again, really distressing, and all I can say is thank you, Dave Lent, for my first tour of duty.
We need to consider hiring a comptroller, developing a position where we have a financially savvy person setting up a more sophisticated system for the town, because the town is running an $11 million budget a year. And I think we need to have something more sophisticated that will be able to produce the kind of accounting that we need when we need it. That will be able to monitor Sewer 6, we'll be able to monitor the water districts on a monthly basis rather than an annual basis. So I'm in favor of seriously considering pushing some initiative forward to hire a person like that. And that person can then bridge administrations. I mean, you talk about every 2 years there's a new supervisor. Maybe you hire somebody on a 5-year basis that has all the systems in place, even though you may have changes in administration. Then you don't spend 6 months trying to catch up on things. So that's my suggestion.
And I think Kevin's selling actually the controller short, and maybe this should be a discussion that we make a ad hoc committee on, Susan, because on top of an $11 million budget, I think the days of having an elected official every 2 years oversee $11 million budget may be done. We have, since I've sat here, which is only late 2008, I took office, I haven't had a single contract in place. And one of the burdens to them was always the fiscal, which I'm sure you're used to that in contracts. The fiscal portion of it is always one of the big ones. We have 2 bonds out there right now. Probably by the time you're up for election, we're probably going to have about 4 or 5 bonds out there, hopefully, paying for various items. On top of the bonds, we have 5 sewer districts and 4 water districts. And we're asking for someone who's elected and in theory is not a full-time position. 'Cause in theory, your position is,
I know.
right, in theory, right, a town supervisor in theory is not a full-time position. You're elected as supervisor of town. So I don't know where to go. I strongly agree with Kevin, but I think you're kind of selling, it's more than just 11 million. Because I've been sitting here watching, and Kitty will agree, we've been watching things not happen. I mean, the one thing that makes me very happy is to walk into your office and Roseanne's office now and actually be able to see everything, including the floor, the walls, and the counters, and be able to pull a bookshelf off and not a dirty shoe. So the improvements are not only through the record keeping, but also are very visual to anyone who's visited a town hall in the past and has come here now. So I'm wondering, and I will ask Kevin if he'd be willing to say that, should we be forming, and Susan, would you be willing to form a ad hoc subcommittee, fiscal subcommittee, to study having a controller for the town?
I'd be more than happy to. So if you want, I would like to appoint Kevin and Jeff.
That's the pleasure of the board.
Well, it's actually my pleasure.
Oh, okay. I'm willing to do it. You know my schedule.
And Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll put that on to.
Can I just ask,
Sure.
are we talking about a new full-time employee?
Yes.
That's what we're gonna find out, I think, Kitty. We're gonna have to, I hear exactly what you're saying, Kitty, and I think it would involve taking funds from potentially other positions in the town, and I wanna do this with the lowest
Before we go
impact.
that route, maybe at the monthly supervisors meeting, Susan, you could just ask how, I mean,
I actually-
I don't think any town has been in this kind of fiscal chaos. But how do they not get here? What do they do
Well,
that we're not doing?
I will tell you that there are a number of towns that do have controllers, and I actually just got, from the controller's office, I just got it today, and I can make copies for you, that they sent me every town, I think either in New York State that does have controllers.
Are there any in Ulster County?
There's many, and there's also, what I do know from, since I've gotten in January, I've been somewhat looking at this and trying to figure out where we go, understanding the financial mess that we've been in, and understanding that this goes beyond anybody sitting here, and I could get together with the board our financial house in order, which we will do, and I have no doubt about that, but we all walk out of the door, and the next group that comes in could put us back into the same mess. And so it's been something I've been working on very seriously with Bill Wallens and with Brenda Bartholomew from the county, so I have some information I can share. But what's happening, Kitty, around the state, and especially Dutchess, Ulster, all the Hudson Valley, most towns are now either hiring budget officers or controllers. So a lot of towns, some of them have part-time budget officers, sometimes have full-time budget officers, some of them have controllers, and so many towns
Is there a
are.
way this could be like a consultant position?
I don't really think, maybe we can consider it. I mean, my perspective
It feels
is.
to me that once we have the policies and procedures in place, and the supervisor and the bookkeeper and the clerk know how those, and anybody who's handling finances. I mean, there's so much stuff in here about internal control. And a lot of it is new because the technology is new. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here about how town employees use the internet. And so I definitely think we could use a consultant to help us design a procedural handbook for how to do those things.
I agree with you, but I think.
Do we have a
that-
government internet
Protocol?
policy?
No, well, yes, we
Yeah.
have a website policy.
Not website. This
No.
is every computer in this building is owned by a governmental entity, and there are restrictions on its usage. And so I was wondering if there was a
We have a
policy in
policy
place for
that's
that.
called
Internet.
ignorance,
It-
which is nobody knows how to get onto the system in the first place.
Ah.
He's absolutely right that there are no internal controls and passwords, but the reason we haven't been hacked is that nobody can get into the system anyway.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, in terms of the
Well,
IT.
that's not good either.
no,
In terms
it's
of the
not
IT,
ideal.
Okay.
There is a 2-page report on our IT, but that's confidential, that we're not allowed to share because it puts our integrity at stake.
Well, but it's in here that you just released.
No. There's another 2 pages what's in here is what can be released. There's another 2 pages that I gave you, you weren't here, Kitty, last week, but you should have gotten a
I've got it
confidential
here.
envelope
Right.
that's stamped confidential, because
Right.
that's not allowed to be released, because it talks about some of the internal controls that we have to put in place relative to our IT system. Unfortunately, it comes with a price tag, and my understanding from the research I've done, again, like I said, I had that when I was in office 2 weeks. I called up to the controller's office, and I said, when am I going to get my report? And I said, I'm trying to get the financial house in order. I know that you were here for 7 months. I know that when I got it audited, when I was here in my last tour duty, you were here for 2 months, and then you met with myself and Jean and Helen Carson and said it was the best managed town, and just correct one thing in the justice courts and let's move on. I said, you were here for 7 months. Obviously, there's problems. I need to know. He called back the very next day and said, I'd like to come in and have a private meeting with you. So that's why I had 15 pages of notes, and we've implementing things. So since he pointed out some of the IT things, I've been checking into some of it, but some of it comes with like a $20,000 price tag. And so in order to do some of the work that needs to be done, we're going to have to talk about that and look at how we're going to afford that next year's budget, to take care of some of the issues that have been brought to our attention that we can't fix right now because it's money.
And two things just to make clear. One is the internet. One, I believe it is either Marlboro or Lloyd got the same exact review that we did on their internet policy. And also I want to reassure everyone that it did not say that our internet is hackable or that they're hacking into it. That this is actually, because there's a lot of new regulations. Kitty pointed out very accurately, it's the technology. And you are supposed to have a policy in place. So actually I reached out to the secretary in Lloyd, and I'm waiting to hear back from her, because I believe it was Lloyd that they had already written it, and they have one that was accepted by the controllers. But they are getting, I think, a Marlboro and or Lloyd, one's getting a full, we're just notified they're getting a full audit also.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, I think we're talking about two different things, because you're talking
Right.
about an internet. And
It's the
you mean
internet
like
and I
internet
apologize.
/ website
No, it's the internet
policy?
security, it's the whole computer security.
It's the security.
They virtually got the same write-up that we got, which is, again, and most of it has to do with the newer technology that's available, that you have, the processes you have to have in place to ensure the security of it.
Well, some of it actually is a little bit
Yeah.
more from the perspective of the amount of different servers that we have, and, you know, I
did read it, and it is
Yeah.
it gets very
Yeah,
detailed.
yeah, so I
And I
mean,
was not able to see there.
And what I can say, but I can't talk about it here in terms of, because I can't, but in terms of what's in the report, there are certain things that they explained to me in the exit interview that I can, you know, share in terms of the security that we need to do with the machinery that we have. And again, the interlinking and all that, and it's a bigger issue that we have to address, but it will have to be addressed when we put together our response to how we're going to solve these problems. So we're going to have to come up with the solution, and we're going to have to say, this is, you know, that we're, you know, now it can be as simple as us saying we're working on a plan, and when we have it, we'll give it to you, but because we're doing the budget, if it's going to be a cost factor, we're going to have to come up
You're
with a
gonna
plan.
need it,
Right,
okay.
right.
So how quick, how quick
How quick what?
a response?
Well, I technically have 90 days to
All right.
respond, but we have 90 days to respond, and so what I might do, I mean, what they would like me to do, because of the fact that I'm releasing it tonight and not waiting to send back our response to them.
Right.
They'd obviously like a response so they could put it attached and release it, since we're already releasing it tonight. So I can respond to a number of things, and I can say that on certain things, like in other words, water and sewer, we're working on how we're going to fix this. Into, you know, the IT, we're working on how we're going to fix it, and we will send you a addendum after the fact. And so I can call and find out how they would like us to, you know,
I
to
was
respond.
So
All right.
But we have 90 days.
can we
All right.
just put this document on our town website? I think that would, you know, be the, rather than having you try to read it to people.
Well, I wasn't going to read it. If I did anything, I
Right.
would just read the executive
Right.
summary, but
Let's just put it on the website and let people.
we can do that.
I
We
don't-
can do it. And anybody
see
wants to read
anything
the
wrong
controller's
with it.
report, they can go and look
We
at
can
it.
put any
But,
So who
PDF.
does that?
you know,
I think
well, that's
Carol does
that's
that.
that's
Policy?
another issue in of itself in terms of our website and the problems we have with the website and what we have to do to make the website more user friendly. And one of the things right now that we're not technically in compliance with, which is an issue that Bill would want
Of
to.
putting the agendas on the website.
Bill's going to. It's not just so much putting on the agendas on the website. We're technically supposed to. Every document that you guys
Have
get,
it, yep.
we're supposed to put
Right.
on the website.
Yep.
But the labor intensity right now, because the website is not user-friendly, is incredibly intensive, and with the amount of work coming through our office, and the fact that it's really just myself and Carol that are basically managing all of this stuff, it's not, it's just, the difficulty with the website has been
Right.
very problematic,
I've
but I
been
have somewhat of a clue.
asking the provider to come in and train the staff.
It's a bigger issue than that, and we're working on it,
So
And
maybe
it-
we need an RFP for provider.
and we're working on it.
Okay.
That's a
And
great
actually,
idea.
technically, the documents we get don't all need to be put on the internet, they just need to be made available to the public. So they don't,
Well, no,
legally, they don't
technically-
need,
no,
they don't need to be
technically-
on the internet.
No, technically, through the new sunshine law that the Cuomo passed at the beginning of the year,
Yep.
that we actually are, any document that we're going to be talking about at a board meeting is supposed to be available to the public before the meeting, so they can go and download the controller's report, the fracking stuff, the AI, the whatever, anything we talk about is supposed to be put on there for anybody to access before they come to a meeting.
Doesn't have to be available on the net, actually it has to be available 48
Right.
hours prior
Right,
to
because
the
I
meeting.
thought if
Not
it
through
was-
the, it doesn't have to be through the internet, it can, as long as we
Right.
have, as long as they can walk into Carol's office and get it from, a copy from her.
Because you
I'm not
can get away
100%
with it if it's
No,
cost.
it's actually, I know, no, 'cause I spoke to, I
Sky
spoke
is
to him
blue,
about this
and
out
it's
up in Albany.
refreshing.
The law says that if you're capable of
Doing
doing
it.
it on the net,
Right.
then
Right.
it must
Right.
be. If
Right.
you're not capable.
Then it has to be available 48
has to
hours
be
prior.
adjusted.
And so
Right.
technically, because we have a website, we should be capable of doing it, but because our website's not as user-friendly as we would like,
Not
we're
if
just
you-
not able to,
It's
Right.
not
But
capable.
Susan,
Right.
ask Carol to call Guy Fisk. He will come in. I mean,
No.
he was able to do that simple
No,
part.
no, I know that. This is more cumbersome, but you know what? There's already some stuff in place in terms of how to start dealing with this, which,
But I mean, she could get the agendas and
oh, she does that. She already has the agendas on the website. That's not the
Find
problem.
them.
Oh, they are on the site. She posts them all the time.
It says TBA.
No, they're
I don't
always,
know.
no, they're
All right,
on.
They're not where you'd expect to find them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you. They're not where,
Okay.
they're not where I would want to find them on the calendar, on that page.
Right.
Actually, they're
Right.
in the announcement splash page.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
And that is, to your exact point, we need to, we need to do an RFP,
Right.
Kitty.
No,
So
we-
just
Yeah.
click that and came
We,
up.
well,
Okay.
it's actually interesting, the village is actually redesigning their website, and they're actually also looking at some technology that really almost like, it's like, as soon as we actually do something, it gets right onto the, like, we make an approval, we approve something, it's like literally on the internet, like right after the meeting and stuff. And so there's a lot of things that the village is looking at, and I know who Jason's talking to, and I went and met with them and said that when Carol got back, because she was away, that I wanted to have a conversation, and that if we
Right.
could actually, as the village is looking to do what they're doing, that maybe in some ways we sort of start to sort of mirror what the village is doing. Again, we're getting information to the community in a way that's all in sync for everybody to be talking to each
You can
other.
have your controller assign all these duties
Mm-hmm.
in the future, especially with, if consolidation happens, there's gonna be a need for somebody that
That's
can
right.
manage that kind of a budget. I mean, with all due respect to
I-
the supervisor, and Kitty, I understand you don't wanna create a new position, and Don Kerr was here earlier, and you have costs and expenses going forward, but this position is critical to the town, it really is critical, more than
I
any
think
other.
financial oversight is critical, but I'm
Critical.
very concerned about creating a new full-time position
I think you
at
will
this
find
point.
that that person will create enough savings
I think so
that it
too.
will pay for that position. Think about all the bonds.
You gotta be
Think
talking about
the-
$75,000 a
but,
year.
Kitty, think about the grants that nobody really followed up on. I mean, just think about that money that would have been lost. If this person's in that position, those things won't happen anymore. Think about the things we don't even know about right now that we've lost.
We didn't have a full-time financial officer doing that job. So I take your point that we lost opportunities for reimbursements, but I am not ready to say that we need to create another
Well, I'm
full-time
not saying
position.
Well-
we need to make that decision now, but Jeff and I should definitely study that.
Yeah, well, I think,
See what other towns are doing,
let me
too.
just jump in and say that they're gonna study it and come back with a recommendation. I will just say from my own perspective, in terms of the amount of work that this comes through the supervisor's office, in terms of, this is a very vibrant community with lots of ideas that people would like to see us undertake and whatever. So the amount of projects we're working on, the amount of people that walk in every single solitary day that distract you from doing the work you're supposed to be doing, on top of managing I'm already doing something that nobody else did, which is having the bookkeeper come in every 2 days and have me go through the vouchers before anybody could spend money. So we're already at least controlling some of that to an extent. But I honestly have to say that I'm putting in an extraordinary amount of hours, and like Jeff said, it's a part-time job and a part-time salary, okay? But I'm meanwhile putting in like close to, I don't know how many hours a day, and as much as I'm doing to stay on top of the finances, it's an incredible amount of work. And then when you're trying to do other things like a fracking law or a wetlands lawsuit or
But-
blah, 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 you
I
really
think
need to have the
problem is
finances.
that in the past, the one official job of our supervisor is to be our chief financial
That's right.
officer.
Actually,
And
by law, that's what it is.
Right.
And that's
Absolutely.
CFO by
the
law.
distractions
Uh-huh.
were what consumed perhaps more of the productive time than they
Right.
should have. So
Well,
it would be comforting. I mean, if you have to put a do not disturb sign on your door.
Well, actually, what's going to happen, honestly, is you guys are going to start getting a lot more phone calls, because like I said to Carol, I said, the next month, I have to do the budget. And that's where my time has to be. So when somebody calls and wants to talk about something, that Carol is going to be saying, well, you know what, why don't you call Kitty Brown and talk to her, and I'll make sure Susan knows what you want to talk about, but call Kitty Brown and see if she can follow up. The other day, I got a phone call, and I asked for Jeff and for Kevin to be called, for them to take this project on and report back to me. I'm on the phone with Jean every single solitary day for at least 45 minutes to an hour, every day going over financial stuff and making sure, okay, Jean, and I have a pretty good sense, okay, because I've done this for 4 years, so it's not like I'm a novice, but even so, I'll still call Jean and sort of say, Jean, you know, is this right? You know, what do you think? You know, blah, 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 and whatever. And fortunately, I have Jean to call, but, you know.
One thing I would like to do is to revisit the 4-year term for our supervisor.
Well, we can have that discussion at another time.
Well, this is an election year, and, you know, the mayor is 4 years, the council is 4 years, and it is impossible to get any consistent handle on our finances in 2 years.
Well, I mean, I would, I
Right,
don't
it's not
disagree,
long enough.
I would not, I don't
It's not.
disagree with that. However, you could still end up electing a supervisor for 4 years who doesn't have the capability of overseeing finances, because that's not their background and
Well,
experience, and they just happen to be
so-
the person who runs,
Okay, another
you know.
example I'm talking about is our escrows for.
Oh, yes, I'd like
I mean,
to,
here's another example
Yeah.
of where we're dropping the ball. And it's because nobody is purely responsible for taking care of these things.
so this is what I have here, and I would like to compliment our new hire, Kelly, in the building
O'Donnell.
department.
Kelly
Kelly
O'Donnell.
O'Donnell in the building department. I know Kelly's watching, and what Kelly has done since she's gotten into office, and what you have in front of you is all the escrow accounts for all the different projects. And what you'll look at and see is how many escrow accounts
Have been depleted.
were depleted, yet they still kept going in front of the planning board. Costs were incurred, and then the escrow account money was not chased, so we're paying for the consultants to give consulting advice to developers, and we're paying for it because the escrow accounts were depleted, the money wasn't not chased. So Kelly, since she's gotten in the short time since we've hired her, she went back and went through, and you'll see, it's, for what, 5-6 months, she's already recouped over $50,000 for us. That would have been lost money if Kelly didn't go through this process. And so she's pretty much up to date. There is certain money that we're just never going to collect, and we're going to have to write it off as just like, you know, that's our mistake, and, you know,
that's
shame on
it's
us, you know.
unacceptable.
Well, we'll have to figure it out and
I'm
come up with a
sorry.
plan. But, you know, Kelly is putting this all in front of us. I will just point out that you will see that the Hampton Inn is a little bit shy, but that's because they've been actually paying for stuff they shouldn't be paying for. And
Yeah,
I've been
but
talking
you're-
with Stacy, and we're going to deal with that issue because the Hampton Inn's
All
under the
right,
lawsuit.
there's
but
really big
but there's some,
nut
yeah,
here,
there's some
but
pretty big numbers. Yeah.
This one is pending, which means that we can hold them from moving forward.
Absolutely.
Until they make that big
That's right.
$18,000
So we
payment.
have
That's
to
right.
feed this information back to our planning board so they know not to take action if the accounts are depleted.
Okay,
Well,
and the other
actually-
one that says dormant is pending, so until they pay, they're not moving forward. And then the other one is dormant with
Actually, you
a
know what?
question mark.
You know, you're much better to skip to the one that says July. Gene, go,
Oh.
see the top, so skip
Yeah.
to July, because
This
then
is
we'll see.
because this was month by her
Oh.
trying to.
Yeah, I was just
so when you
trying to-
get, yeah. So what she
Oh,
did
she
is.
should have put July on top.
Yeah, I know. Just so you know, Gene, I did the same thing you did on Saturday,
You didn't have
and
to
like you
talk
can't
about
Right.
believe.
Well, this is what she did was she put together.
There's some better news here.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but that's because she's been working on it. So what
Yes,
she did was she
absolutely.
started and went month by month, and then she's been calling and collecting money. And what I'm saying is because of the work that Kelly's been doing, she's basically gotten in $50,000 to replenish some of these accounts, but it's only because Kelly has been on top of it.
That,
there's a much better
Wow.
story in July than there
One of
is,
these
so.
was approved and still owes $9,000.
So actually, Gene, what we can see is what Kelly's done since March to July is incredible.
It's absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh.
That was for a part-time hire. So would everybody on the board like to look up at the TV camera and thank Kelly because she's watching?
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
So the policy that we passed under Paul Brown was that they didn't get approval until their outstanding
Oh,
bills
this
were
one's not
passed.
gonna
They didn't
pay.
know.
Well,
It was
here's- I mean,
denied, and
Yeah,
they
but
owe
here's one.
$6,000.
If you look at 2009-08 on the last status, July, begins with an H, and it was approved and owes $9,000. The approved
Yeah, she
is,
told me that was taken care of. Okay.
it should not have been approved until that bill was paid.
Well, you actually see in here, like, the one that Jean pointed out, where it says, prior to the law. The one that
Yeah,
you
but it
pointed
doesn't
out.
matter, it was denied,
Right.
and it's $6,600
but-
in the
but-
hole.
right, but
I'm
it-
not paying for that.
But what I'm saying is,
Well,
it
we
was
did.
prior to the law. It's already
Too late.
$6,000, and we're not gonna get that money from them
Yeah,
because
but
they were
this is your
denied.
tax money.
Well,
It's being
that's why
fund.
we,
It's
that you
town
notice-
outside a village.
That's why we passed a law that
Okay.
said you don't get back to the planning board. And by the way, this particular person, well,
Okay, no personal.
never mind.
Okay,
Well, anyway,
$14,000. She
So
got
do
a
we have a
letter.
second to Jeff and I?
well, no, I don't need a second. It's my, it's
Your
my-
appointment? So
It's my
we're
appointment. If
appointed?
I would like to, appoint a special committee, I have the authority to do that.
So we're stuck.
And
This is
so,
one of, this is one of the things our Human Resources Subcommittee is going to recommend anyway.
okay. Okay, so does anybody have anything else they want to say about the controller's report, or would you like to move on?
We'll be discussing it at
Is that
every meeting,
late?
unfortunately,
Let's
go.
so.
Okay.
An hour.
Oh, I don't think I put the BID on the agenda, did I? I want to talk about that. Okay, let's do the fracking. I really want to put the bid on, so we'll do that in a little bit. I'd like to do the hydrofracking stuff. So what we have is you got the laws last week, the 3 laws that we're looking to do. And what we have in front of us is a resolution declaring lead agency classifying action and referring proposed local laws relating to oil and gas drilling. Whereas the town council on its own motion has prepared 3 draft local laws, 1 prohibiting natural gas exploration and extraction in the town, 2 prohibiting the use of brine on town roads derived from natural gas exploration and extraction, and 3 prohibiting the disposal of natural gas or oil production waste in the town sewer system. And whereas the town council wishes to distribute the proposed local laws to the interested agencies and initiate the environmental review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, now therefore it is hereby resolved by the town council of the town of Newport that 1, Supervisor Susan Zimmett is hereby authorized to sign the verification on page 10 of the Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, which was prepared for the proposed action of adopting the 3 proposed local laws. That the town council will serve as lead
Susan,
agency.
Can I
Yeah,
interrupt you?
sure.
Shouldn't we do the secret determination before you do this?
No,
Okay.
I talked with
Okay.
George Rodenhouse, and he walked me through exactly what we do. And what we're doing is we're passing the resolution declaring us lead agency. Then this signed EAF that I'm supposed to sign gets put together, and the laws get circulated to the town planning board, the county planning board, and anybody else identified. What I'm going to do after we do this is set the public hearing. Once we do the public hearing,
Okay, well, maybe this is something else that we have not been doing right, but in the past, we've usually done seeker first.
Right, and then you do the
well,
resolution
no,
after secret.
George, like I said, George Rodenhouse walked me through it, and he said, you do not do the secret tonight. You will do the secret after you have your public hearing.
No,
That's not how we
That's
did
we
it in the
have to do
past.
seeker before a public
I
hearing.
am just telling you.
I just don't think there's
lawyer.
any harm in
What?
doing this seeker. It's a type 1, so we
It's a
know we're
type-
going to have to do a
Right.
big secret.
It's a
What you
type, it's a
thing.
type 1 action, right? So,
You have in, you guys probably don't have the whole, I think, made you copies of page 10 through,
but George does agree it's a type 1 action, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
So-
it says in item number 1 on the resolution.
Right. But I think that if we just do what's on the back of here first and then pass the resolution,
Okay, on the back of what, Kitty?
this is the EAF.
Right.
I
Which-
think we should go through that first and then pass the resolution.
Okay, if we can do it that way, I just know I went through it with him about how to do it. This is what he told me to do, but I have,
I,
you're not an environmental lawyer, Kevin.
Well,
No.
Did you ever want to be?
now, Susan, let me just
But I have
ask
to,
a
I have to,
question.
actually, I think Kitty, I have to go back and get the fuller document that he sent me that has more in it.
well, we're not going to do the whole type 1 secret tonight, but we're going to declare it a type 1 action.
Well, let me-
And
you know what, let me just look
I think we're
through-
supposed to do that first.
Okay, well, look, let me,
We've never
you know
done a
what?
type 1 action before, so.
Well, how about this? Why don't I finish reading what he said, and maybe that'll answer our question?
Well,
Okay? Do you want to say something, Jean?
yeah, because I think it might take a second. So if it says Supervisor Zimmett is hereby authorized to sign the verification on page 10 of part 1 of the full environmental assessment form. Well, how is Supervisor Zimmett going to sign page 10 verification that says, I certify that the information provided above is true to the best of my knowledge?
Okay, so
Does
would you,
Supervisor Zimmett want to review it first?
I would be more than happy to. The,
So does that make a difference,
Why
Lawyer
don't-
Kevin?
Look, I would defer to George and his practice and procedure.
Okay.
But you make a good point, Gene. Obviously, the information on the form has to be reviewed and approved. And
So
then we're
that-
authorizing her to sign, and then the resolution is.
okay. So, it's all filled out for us, so what we can do is go through it because the attorney very graciously answered all the questions.
Yeah.
We should do that.
So, Kitty, would you like to just go and read through everything?
Okay, so a description of the action. This is adoption of 3 local laws relating to natural gas and oil drilling, and the applicant sponsors the town of New Paltz Town Board. The town is considering the adoption of 3 local laws relating to natural gas and oil drilling and extraction. A local law to prohibit brine on town roads prohibits the application of natural gas and oil byproducts on town roads. A local law to prohibit the disposal of natural gas and/or oil production waste into the municipal sewer system prohibits the discharge of natural gas or petroleum byproduct into the municipal sewer system. So, question A, site description. The physical setting of the overall project is residential, rural, agricultural, and other. Total project area is the entire town. What is predominant soil type? Apparently that is not applicable. Are there bedrock outcroppings on project site? NA. Approximate percentage of proposed project site? NA. Is project substantially contiguous to or contain a building, site, or district listed on the state or national registers of historic places? Yes. Is project substantially contiguous to a site listed on the register of national natural landmarks? NA. What is the depth of the water table? Varies. Is site located over a primary, principal, or sole source aquifer? Yes. Do hunting, fishing, or shellfishing opportunities presently exist in the project area? Yes. Does project site contain any species of plant or animal life that is identified as threatened or endangered? Yes. Are there unique or unusual landforms on the project site? No. Is the project site presently used by the community or neighborhood as an open space or recreation area? Yes. And the open spaces are the rail trail, clean water park facilities, county fairgrounds, Mohawk Preserve. Does the present site include scenic views known to be important to the community? Yes. The next 5 questions are not answered.
Well, number 15 is streams within a continuous project area. There are various streams throughout the town.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. 17, is the site served by existing public utilities? Yes. Is the site located in an agricultural district certified pursuant to Ag and Markets Law, Article 25AA, Section 303 and 304? Yes. Is the site located in or substantially contiguous to a CEA designated pursuant to Article 8 of the ECL and 6 NYCRR 617? No. Has the site ever been used for the disposal of solid or hazardous waste? No. Project description, physical dimensions and scale. Total contiguous acreage owned or controlled by project sponsor, NA. Project acreage to be developed, NA. Project acreage to remain undeveloped, NA. Length of project in miles, NA. If the project is an expansion, indicate percent of expansion proposed, NA. Number of off-street parking spaces existing, NA. Maximum vehicular trips generated per hour, NA. If residential, number and type of housing units, NA. Dimensions of largest proposed structure, NA. Linear feet of frontage along a public thoroughfare project will occupy is NA. How much natural material will be removed from the site, NA. Will disturbed areas be reclaimed, NA. Will topsoil be stockpiled for reclamation, NA. Will upper subsoil be stockpiled for reclamation, NA. How many acres of vegetation, trees, shrubs, ground covers will be removed from site, NA. Will any mature forest over 100 years old or other locally important vegetation be removed by this project, NA. If single-phase project, anticipated period of construction, NA. Will blasting occur during construction, NA. Number of jobs eliminated by this project, NA. Will project require relocation of any projects or facilities, NA. Is surface liquid waste disposal involved, NA. That's the whole point. Is subsurface liquid waste disposal involved, NA. Is project or any portion of project located in a 100-year floodplain, NA. Will the project generate solid waste, NA. Will the project involve the disposal of solid waste, NA? Will the project use herbicides or pesticides, NA? Will project routinely produce odors, NA? Will project produce operating noise exceeding the local ambient noise levels, NA? Will project result in an increase in energy use, NA? If water supplies from wells indicate pumping capacity, NA. Total anticipated water usage per day, NA. Does project involve local, state, or federal funding, NA? Approvals required. City, town, village board, yes. The type is an adoption. City, town, village planning board, yes. Recommendation pursuant to section 14056B of the town code. City, town, zoning board, no. City, county health department, no. Other local agencies, yes. Ulster County Planning Board, 239M referral. Other regional agencies, no. State agencies, no. Federal agencies, no. Does proposed action involve a planning or zoning decision? Yes. If yes, indicate decision required. Zoning amendment. What is the zoning classification of the site? The zoning amendment would apply town-wide. What is the maximum potential development of the site if developed as permitted by the present zoning? NA. The amendment would apply town-wide. What is the proposed zoning of the site? NA. Heavy industry is already prohibited in the town. The amendment specifically identifies natural gas and oil drilling-related activities as heavy industry. What is the maximum potential development of the site if developed as permitted by the proposed zoning? NA. Is the proposed action consistent with the recommended uses and adopted local land use plans? Yes. The laws are consistent with the comprehensive plan. What are predominant land uses and zoning classifications within a quarter-mile radius of proposed action? NA. The zoning amendment would apply town-wide. Is the proposed action compatible with adjoining surrounding land use within a quarter of a mile? Yes. If the proposed action is a subdivision of land, how many lots are proposed? NA. Will proposed action require any authorization for the formation of sewer or water districts? No. Will proposed action create a demand for any community-provided services, recreation, education, police, fire protection? No. Will the proposed action result in the generation of traffic significantly above present levels? No. And now, the town supervisor can sign this.
So now
Kitty.
therefore it is hereby resolved by the town council of the New Paltz Town Board Supervisor Susan Zivit is hereby authorized to sign the verification on page 10 of the Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form, which has been prepared for the proposed action of adopting 3 proposed local laws. The town council will serve as lead agency for the environmental review of the proposed action, as it is the only agency with the authority to approve, fund, or undertake the proposed action. The proposed action is classified as a type 1 action under seeker, as it involves a change in allowable use in the zoning district or districts affecting more than 25 acres. The proposed local laws, the EAF, and this resolution shall be forwarded by the town clerk to the Ulster County Planning Board, the Town of New Paltz Planning Board, the Town of New Paltz Environmental Conservation Board and Open Space Preservation Committee, the municipal clerks of the municipalities adjacent to the Town of New Paltz, together with a copy of the notice of public hearing. And a public hearing on the 3 proposed local laws, because we don't want to waste any time. A public hearing on the 3 proposed local laws is hereby set for Thursday, October 4th at 2012, to be held at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, 1 Veterans Drive, Town of New Paltz, and the town clerk is directed to provide at least 10 days' notice thereof, publishing a notice in the official newspaper of the town as otherwise directed by law. So, would somebody like to move this?
So moved.
Would somebody like to second it?
Second?
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay. I am sure many people in New Paltz will be very, very delighted that we're moving forward, and what we are doing is a little bit more than a lot of other communities, because we're not just looking at banning hydrofracking, we're also doing the sewer, and we're also doing the roads. So we're being pretty comprehensive, and I think people will really appreciate that. What I did give to you, and I think some of you had already agreed to put your name on it, but I just wanted to bring it back to your attention. I don't think Jean was here when we did this. I'm pretty sure everybody else gave their name, but I just want to double check. There is a group of elected leaders through the state that have been working on trying to get Governor Cuomo to slow down with authorizing hydrofracking and issuing permits. And there's a number of issues, from health issues to environmental issues, where they're asking him to hold off. And as of now, there are 360 local elected officials from 45 counties across the state who have signed on the letter. And they're going to be doing another release with a number of press conferences. And I just wanted to make sure, I'm pretty sure you all agreed to put your name on it, but I remember Jean wasn't here, and I just wanted to make sure that you all would still like to have your name on it, and Jean, you'd like to add your name on it, so I can make sure all elected officials from the town of New Paltz are part of elected officials calling on Governor Cuomo to protect New Yorkers from fracking. Everybody name, make sure, I should make sure all your names are on it?
I think we all did this.
Yeah, I think you did, and it's just another letter going out, so I want to make sure you're all comfortable with your names being on this letter again, and give Jean the opportunity to add her name. So if it's okay with everybody, I will add everybody's name.
Great.
Okay? Okay, great. Okay, moving right along. What I'd like to do is before we go into some other stuff, because I think this is important and I'd like to talk about it now, is add a business improvement district onto the agenda. If I can have an amendment to add that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We've talked before, and I gave you guys a copy of something that I got from bond counsel. And actually, I just want to point out, when Jeff made a comment about the number of bonds that we have and stuff, again, we got an incredible deal with Ken Bond, who basically gave us an incredibly discounted rate of $2,500 to be a bond counsel. In order to do one bond, it's usually about $4,000. We already did the bond for open space. We have 2 other bonds, I think, for Sewer 5 and something else. And Ken sent me a thing to say, okay, it'll cost you $3,400. And when I spoke to him today, I said, Ken, if I remember correctly, you gave us $2,500 for no matter how many bonds we do for this year. And he said, oh, right, I'm sorry, I forgot, Susan. I said, well, I didn't. He said, yep, you want to get this done? He goes, well, you're getting it for free. So one bond's $4,000. We got one bond for $2,500, and we're going to get 2 more bonds for nothing. And all the time that Ken is helping us on all the other issues is just his free time that he's donating to the town, which is really quite remarkable because his expertise is really beyond comprehension. So I just wanted to point that out when you said that, Jeff. So if there's any other bonds we want to do, think of them really quickly and let's get it done. So one of the things that I actually talked to Ken about was business improvement districts, because we've been talking about that a lot. And one of the conversations, and it's something we're going to be talking about later about the police restructuring, is a conversation that we have over and over again is how can we as a community afford the police? And what we always end up doing is putting ourselves in a situation of looking to see how we're going to cut the police because we can't afford the cost of the department, the retirement, the benefits, and all that type of stuff. And we've all talked about the fact that the conversation should be really turned around to what kind of policing levels do we need in the town of New Paltz, and how do we pay for it, and how do we disperse the payments so the right people are paying for it instead of all the taxpayers who can't afford it. And one of those avenues is to do a business improvement district. So one of the questions I had originally asked George Lithgow was, could the town create a Main Street business improvement district that incorporates the village?
George or Ken?
No. At first I asked George Lithgow, but then I had a following conversation with Ken, which I'll get to. So my first question to George Lithgow was, can the town board create a business improvement district that incorporates the village? And if we want to do a Main Street business improvement district, and he did the research and said that we as a board, as a town board, can create a business improvement district that incorporates the village. Now, I will say though, in conversations that I've had with Mayor West, he's very interested in doing a business improvement district too, and he's totally on board with our thinking in terms of making sure that there's equitable distribution of the cost for the police in this community. And so I know he's looking to do this too, but, you know, and so hopefully we will talk about it. But when I talked to Ken, and I said to Ken, do you know much about business improvement districts? Stupid question, he knows a lot about everything. So what he did was he forwarded me this, and I didn't give it to you right away because it said confidential, and so attorney-client privilege. And I said, Ken, can I make this public? And he said, Susan, take that out, white it out. It's your document, you can do what you want. So he explains how you do a business improvement district. One of the most important things is if you go down to 2C is where it says that one of the provide for additional maintenance or services required for the enhancement of districts, including, and if you jump down to number 5, enhanced security for persons and property within the district. And so when Ken and I talked about this, he actually said to me, when I explained to him about the question about doing a business improvement district in Main Street, what Ken actually said to me was, Susan, he said, one of the problems with your community is the fact that, he said, it's the white elephant in the room, and that's the university not paying any kind of pilot to the community. He goes, and those days are numbered, that doesn't exist anymore. He said, and that's a conversation that we should have. And I said, Ken, that's a conversation we've been having for a long time in this community, and something we need to take to the next level. What Ken said was we actually could create a town-wide business improvement district that would actually capture the college and the university, and then we could assess fees back to the college for services that we could do within the context of a BID. Now, he said, of course, it's a process. He said it's not a hard process, and if you look at it, the town board actually has the authority to do this. And if you look at...
They do.
Yes, number 4, formation of a district. A district plan must be established, and 1A, the plan can be established either by the legislative body of the controlling municipality or by 51% of the property owners within the district. So, but we can do it. And so...
Can I?
Sure.
We are not the legislative body of the village.
No, we're the legislative body
No,
of the town, and the village is a part of the
But-
town.
But the village is a separate municipality.
I understand.
don't
Part of the town.
understand
I understand
this.
it, but because
Part of
it's
the
part of the
taxes.
town, the research that
But
was
we-
done was,
But I mean, we can't pass zoning in the village.
but all I can say is George Lithgow.
No, we can, no,
Go ahead,
we
'cause it's assessing.
can tax.
It's assessment.
Because the town taxes all the village properties in the general fund, because they belong in the town.
Right, but the village taxes village residents for
In June.
other services.
But-
Or
Yes.
village.
But
so, I
those,
mean,
if we
it
created a
just seems too
BID.
good to be true.
Right, it does. And isn't that funny? Because if we created the BID here, so we do tax bills in January, and that tax bill went out with the BID formation on it for town, then in the June village, those people would, that would all reduce based on the services provided under the BID.
Oh.
So that would reduce what services they were providing.
Now, where
So-
I'm with Kitty, I'm befuddled here, and Reason being, I like the word befuddled too. A couple of years ago, I used much different language. It's interesting. Time brings perspective.
Do you
We
need-
on
do
the
you need
A,
spectacles?
no, we on the A, thank you. We tax an A and a B side. Neither the A nor the B specifically has the boundaries of just the village. The A includes the village and the town. The B includes,
The town
The
outside.
I
D
apologize, excludes the village.
Yes.
So where I'm confused here is if we made a BID
Townwide.
town-wide, there's no specific, I don't have any system.
No, I see what he's saying.
And that's what Kitty's saying, I
So-
don't have a specific way to say your property is in here.
Right.
Now, I do agree with Susan, I think we
A.
do need to create, and Kitty, I think we need to create a BID that is the village, but then we need the village. I wish she was a
No,
tax
but-
attorney too.
Well,
Then we need.
A fund,
I just don't see how
A
we have
fund
the
could
authority to do it.
encompass all of Main Street because,
But I can't
Okay, well,
segregate
but-
out.
Well, see, I think within a BID, because what you're doing when you create a BID, you're assessing different businesses certain tax levies based on the BID and how you establish it.
You're reallocating
Okay,
the
so-
cost of the service.
So you can create BIDs, I think, and I'm not an expert, okay, so I'll get to my next question to the board, but when you create these BIDs, you create different assessments based on different needs, and some of the needs are identified. So
Right.
in that BID, you might have an assessment on certain types of businesses that get certain kind of services. Then you might have a BID on other assessments that might get other kind of services,
I
and so.
totally get that. I
so-
mean, this is what we need.
Kitty,
It's
look
just-
at the smile on her face.
The part I don't get is.
Yeah.
Well,
Where-
so
where
let
we
me
get
get
the
to,
tax
so let me
authority to
get, so let me get to the next step, okay? So let me get to the next step, which is what I said to Ken. He said, Susan, he said, there's a process, it's not that hard, but it's a process. It's a
Right.
project, it's a process, it's a step-by-step. And I said to Ken, what I would like to do tonight is ask the board to ask Ken Bond to put a proposal together for this board to explain, to ask him to put together a proposal of what it would take to create a BID, what are the steps, and what would be the cost implications. And so all really at this point is I'm trying to say, I think we might be able to move forward. We need to move forward. We need to start getting the facts, not just talk about it, but actually get the tool. So what I'd like to do with the support of the board is just ask Ken for a proposal to this board of what are the implications and the steps and the cost for us to start to undertake something like this.
Okay, but.
So it's not costing us anything, we're just getting back from him what it would take for us to
But I just want
actually.
to ask
Sure.
the questions that are befuddling me and Jeff. And the question is, can one municipality create a BID in another municipality over which it does have some taxing jurisdiction, but which has separate government?
And again, all I can say is, I specifically said to George Lithgow that we're interested in doing a BID, and
You mean Ken Bond?
no, George first.
Lithgow?
Okay, I asked two
Okay.
attorneys.
Oh.
Okay, so I asked George first
Okay.
and said to George that the town incorporates the village, and so many times we're told we can't do things because we're not the village
Right,
government.
right.
And I said, however, is it feasible for the town government to create a business improvement district that incorporates the village? He did the research and he said, yes. Okay? At the same time I was talking to George about that, Jason and I happened to have a conversation, and Jason brought up that he was interested in doing BID. And I said, well, funny that you're talking about that, because I'm already having conversations to see how we could do it, so let's see how we can work together. Conversely, well, I don't know if that's the right word, but then simultaneously, I then said to Ken, while I had him on the phone, and he wasn't charging me for any of the time, and I said, Ken, what do you know about BIDs? And he sent this form to us, and it said, as you'll see whited out over here, confidential attorney, blah, blah, blah. So when I spoke to him today, I said, Ken, I said, I'd like to bring this to the board tonight because we're struggling about the cost for the police. We know that we have to find a way to be able to afford the police that this town and community needs. and we shouldn't be shortchanging the community, the policing services that they need, because we can't afford to pay for it anymore. We need to find out how we're going to pay for the services of the police that we need to keep this community safe. And so I said, Ken, you sent this to me, can I share this with the board? And he said, absolutely. And then again, I brought up the fact of the village and the town, and he said, Susan, you could create a town-wide BID, and you could include the college, and you could start assessing the college. And I said, oh my God, I will bring this to the board tonight, and I will add, and then he said, but Susan, you're not going to get me to create a BID for you for free. I said, I understand that. I said, so he's going to basically put together a, and he will be in town next Wednesday. We can talk about that later, and maybe you can.
So let's just do it.
So anyway, so I'm
He's
gonna.
gonna have to go to that meeting.
Yes.
She missed last
I
week.
know,
need like
I know.
a diagram.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
Village, town, okay.
I'm going to invite you, Kitty, to join with me when I meet Ken next Wednesday.
And I think also for lack of a better word, this really is an RFP you're sending
Yes.
out. So if you could also include in it, and if the board would agree, is not only what is, and when you say our responsibility, the town board, but could he also outline, is there things in his opinion, or legally does the village have to do something too?
Sure.
Because I'm still
Sure.
kind of confused how we get it on the tax bill to the Main Street. And we'll just use maybe Main Street's not the answer,
No, they're not.
but let's just say the Main Street is the answer. So, yeah, but I'd like to get it for both the village and town.
So everybody okay?
Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, I'm good with it,
Sorry,
and I
we're-
think the
we're
smile on
pretty-
Kitty's face
You know,
answers for
It's a great
herself.
idea, it makes a lot of sense. I would love to explore it further.
Okay, great. So we are going to explain, I'm going to call him tomorrow, and I'm going to say, Ken, get it to me sooner than later. Because
Yeah,
if they-
because you know what, that public hearing, it's a process and you have to do it, but
Yeah.
it's gonna slow us down.
Well, he
Yes,
said,
let's do
I
it.
don't think it's that much of a process, but it is. But the more important thing is the sooner we get it in place, the quicker it'll help us with our budget. So we're doing it,
Yes.
I also just wonder, is it
Yes.
every business in the district?
Well, no,
or
no.
is it the
So-
type of
See,
business?
I think it's how you set up, and again, I'm not an expert,
Okay.
I'm sure Ken will come and talk to us, but,
Actually, Kevin's got a nice, simple way he's explained it to me.
The town provides services townwide.
Yes.
All you're gonna do is create a district that rebalances how those services are paid for. That's it. Townwide.
Now, no, but his point though, Kitty,
I hear all the words
but Kitty,
that you're saying.
here's the kicker is now the village then would be responsible to distribute them as they deem responsible. So they would
For
then,
village services that are provided by the village alone. The village can do a BID. Town services that are provided townwide, we're just doing a BID, it's simple.
I don't understand, if we're making a BID, why can't we just combine the services and charge it to the BID?
No, but
Because we
you-
have a
Oh.
separate municipality.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
so
So the
Yeah, that's
village is
proper.
gonna have to
So-
decide
so
what they
the
want to do
village
with
can
their
do a
portion.
BID, but so
Village
again,
can do
okay.
BID for their own
So when you look,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
so when you look
Like
and
water,
see.
sewer, whatever.
Okay, so it says a BID you can do for the construction and installation of landscaping, planting, and parking. You can do construction of lighting and heating facilities. You can do improvement of enhanced security, blah, blah, blah. You can do opening, widening, and narrowing of its existing streets. You can create pedestrian malls. So the village could create a BID for the purposes of sidewalks. We could create a BID for the purposes of enhanced security of persons and property and assess the, and see, and when you create a BID, there's certain businesses, there's certain
I'm
businesses.
sold.
Kitty's like, stop talking, just do it. Okay, let's go.
Okay? Okay, so good. So let's just keep moving and get things done and
So I
make this
guess,
town
with-
affordable.
The only action is that we have authorized the supervisor to
To just-
continue the conversation.
Right,
Continue
exactly.
discussion.
Right, okay?
Proposal from
Thank you.
Okay, so, do you guys want to do the USAI contract?
Yes.
Okay, so we have two contracts. One, what we ended up having last time, unfortunately, was the 209 contract, and that's why we were a little perplexed. Today I got the 212 contract, and it's broken down into a coordinator and a videographer. So it's broken down into two different contracts, one for coordination, one for videography. So would someone like to move the coordinator contract?
I just want to make sure
move that
Kevin
we
has the correct, yeah.
approve the
These are-
coordinator
these two.
contract.
Yeah,
Just
I
make sure
have
you
the
have-
old one.
Rip up the old one, rip up the old one.
This one is not old, I don't think, so that's the one from March. I think
That says
that's-
March 209.
Yeah, is that, let me just see.
No,
Yeah,
he's
you don't
got-
want, no, yeah, now you
rip
got the
that one
correct
up.
one. Yeah, this is not the one you want.
Okay, they have two
I have
different
it.
dates though.
They do?
Mine says
Well-
2/17/12.
But no, I mean on the public access coordinator. So,
Right, because we pay
The video-
half and the village pays half.
okay.
Right.
Oh,
Oh,
January,
what
that's
happens
why
here?
we're paying January through June
Yeah.
of 2012.
Well,
So we're done paying.
We're done paying. I don't know why in next year when we redo the contracts, I don't really quite, maybe Kitty knows, we pay half the year, the village pays the other half the year. I just don't understand why we break this 270 out where they pay 270 for the first 6 months, we paid 1290. Now we start paying 270 and they pay 1290. I don't understand why it just isn't the total amount and we just pay half and half
Why
all
is
year,
that?
or why we basically just don't
should
lump
be
it
half and
together.
half all year.
So we could try to redo the contract for next year, but this is to concretize the fact that we've been doing this all year and we don't have a contract.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
they're
what.
here, right?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I don't know why that was done and why that's in place, and I think what we could do is since we're putting it on our agenda for the organizational meeting, that we could take it back to the Public Access Committee, and Kitty could actually take it back, she's the liaison, and sort of suggest that either we just do the total payment for 6 months, or it's just they pay half the year, we pay the half.
That's not half of the price, so this is the total of half of the price. So the price is actually over $18,000 a year. For coordinator,
Split between the town and the village.
right, because the town's paying $9,300.
Mhm.
So the village is paying.
And starting now, the village will be paying, we won't be authorizing that payment anymore, the village will be paying that now for the rest of the year.
Right,
lower
we're
amount?
paying
Now we start paying the
the
270.
270.
Right. I don't know why, I don't know, Kitty, do you remember the history of why that was done?
Why it was done that way.
Maybe you want to get your money quicker? I don't know.
I think it was just to expedite getting the videographer paid.
It seems to me that it would make sense that you want to cover your annual expense as quickly as you can. So I can understand why they'd want to front load the annual cost into 6 higher monthly payments and then the balance.
No, the
No,
other
but-
6 months, the village is paying
Yeah.
that $1,290.
I wonder if this is just, Kitty, was this just historically done because the contract
Well, what
came
does
up
that
in a time when the village did not have enough funds, so we agreed that we would pay a higher amount? And then I think we are inheriting just a bad practice.
They had their
So
budget
what does it
approved.
Because their
mean?
budget, see, because the village budget is the May and we are January, so I think we just inherited a bad practice
Okay, but
from
wouldn't that
many
be
years
over
ago.
now because the village has been paying for,
Well, because we,
Okay.
we-
I
Since
think it's just
July.
I think it was just a practice that's continued that was just needed because the village didn't have the funds, so we said, okay, we'll pay more, and then when your next budget season comes, you'll be able to pay more. You with me? I think
And
this
they
was
were-
just something
and I
that was
don't
done
think
the very
it got
first
raised.
year, and it's just carried along for
so
absolutely no
is
good
it
reason.
extra or not extra?
No, you end up, at the end of 12 months, at the end of 12 months, each municipality ends up
paying the same.
But
paying the same.
We can rectify it going into
I
next year
think it was,
possibly.
yeah, I think it was,
It's just that this is just the way it has been done.
yeah, I think it was, doesn't it ring a bell, Kitty? That there was just, I think it had to do with funding.
It had to do with
Wait a
the
second,
fact that
would you like to?
budget.
Easy to,
My boss said he's gonna be here in 5 minutes.
okay, so we're gonna
table this for 5
table for
minutes.
5 minutes.
Hurry on down, Bob.
Bob, thank you, don't rush.
Because he's watching, so, okay, so let's,
Bob, don't rush.
Bob, we'll be here for a little bit longer, but we're gonna finish by 11, because I don't wanna go into the overtime payments in the
Okay.
contract.
Okay, let's-
So, Jeff, you were gonna check into the library special tax and district, I don't know if you had a chance to do it or not.
No, I did not.
Okay, so we'll put that aside. and
Table it.
We'll table that.
Studley?
Okay, the Studley, if you guys are willing to do it, this is a contract that's been going on for years and years and years and years. and it's for their wonderful barn party that they have on Butterville Road once a year.
Okay,
That
I
gorgeous
make a-
barn gets used.
I make a motion to approve the contract for traffic control services.
And just so everyone knows also, is that there is a bucket put out during this, and 100% of the funds collected as donations goes to
Family?
The youth center.
the youth
Oh,
center.
center,
Thank you, I
right.
apologize. Thank you. And the
Right.
reason being is the youth center kids volunteer their time. They are not paid. They volunteer time to help assist in parking in the field.
So just basically so people
They do
understand
have
that this is.
licenses, right?
They never drive a vehicle.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they do not drive the vehicle.
They show people where to
They
park.
show people where to park, and also,
Okay.
this has been vetted by our
Clean
town
up.
attorney
Yeah.
multiple
Alright.
times.
Yeah, yeah. So do I have, do I have,
Aye.
we had a motion
Aye.
in a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, what do we have left? We have,
Sewer 6.
okay, the sewer 6. So what we have in here is a request for a new pump for sewer 6. Now, what happened was, because it's an emergency, I originally approved it because it was an emergency, but then I called back right away and said, can they wait till tomorrow? Because the controller pointed out that when we're taking money from different funds and we're moving money around, the board needs to approve it. So I wasn't approving funds for an emergency to come out of the sewer 6 budget. There is no money in the sewer 6 budget to pay it. So we've got to take it from a different fund, the A fund or some other fund. And so since we're transferring money within the budget, that always has to come back to the board. So Barbara Cottington has said that they could wait till tomorrow, but they really need it and it's emergency. And I said, fine, let me bring it to the board tonight. Let you guys let's approve it. Let's do things right. Let it reflect in the minutes when the controller comes back and audits the town down the road that this board did things right. And so that's why it's being brought to you guys.
Okay, I make a motion authorizing the purchase of the Meyer shredding impeller and shredding ring
And the only thing
for
is.
sewer 6.
Second,
Now-
before discussion.
Okay, second, and for discussion, one is, Susan, thank you very much, because under all the opinions, this is the exact way it's supposed to be happening, including these phantom to and froms, which I could never find much
You won't
on.
find them in
But-
your expense
Yeah,
report.
no, but what I was wondering though is, should we be naming the fund that it comes from?
I mean, right
and
now,
going to?
It's gotta be coming from the A fund, I would think,
And
but I
It-
don't know.
Actually, under the, if you look at control reports that I did find, you do take them out of your general,
Right.
you do take them out of the general A fund.
Okay.
But it says, the only thing it is very clear about is you cannot take it from another special district,
You can't, no,
which has been done in the past.
which has unfortunately been done in the past also. So
Right.
I think, Gene, so I guess there's a friendly amendment that, just that it be taken from the A fund
And then you
To
report
pay
back
for
which
sewer
one.
six.
to pay, and then moved into the
Sewer
sewer.
6. To accept that
Into
friendly amendment?
the G fund, the sewer, the G.
yeah,
fund.
but I don't, we're not keeping our books that way. That would be the way that I would do it.
That's the way
is
you're
a
supposed to do it.
transfer. Yes.
You're supposed to do it that way. That's what the
Yes.
controller says. That's what all the opinions say. I agree with you. I'm on your team.
Okay, but then, okay, when we got financial reports, you would see
Yes.
what it costs for sewer 6. We would literally see how much out of whack we were, because all these expenses for sewer 6 would be right there on our financial report.
Yes,
And
they're
so, I don't know how you started doing due to, due from, and not just transfer to another fund and charging it to your sewer 6. I really don't understand.
Because we weren't told about it.
I
It
don't
just
understand.
happened.
So-
It just
Okay,
happened.
okay.
And we were told that a to and from does not require approval
You know
that
what,
your
I
CFO.
would really like to fix that before December 31st, before we go into the next
I think we're
audit
almost there.
report.
I think we're almost
Okay.
there.
So now let me just, two quick things. On the due to from, I will be getting that shortly.
Okay.
And because in order to correct the deficiencies in the controller's report, we need to know how much money is owed from what fund to what fund, so we can't correct it without getting the due to
Right.
funds.
He's got
So
it in
you're-
there.
Well,
It's
no,
in
no.
there.
He shows how much money's been depleted, but I don't think he
Not where it
necessarily...
came from.
Not where it came from. So like, in other words, you have a...
Okay.
That's-
No, it didn't. It
No,
actually
didn't
came
ever-
from, it sounds
Some of
like,
it came from a special district.
some of
and
it came from your
We were
stormwater.
told in one meeting that was correct, and I told her it was not. The controller clearly states you cannot take from any other special
Right.
district.
So, and then you'll see that there's actually some water districts that lent money to other water districts.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, we
so-
were told,
so
that we were
some,
led to believe it was correct, and I
No.
can't, yes.
what's completely incorrect.
Well, we were led to believe that, yes.
Sorry,
asked-
I'm sorry to hear
We
that.
were
I did also state at meetings that, yes, it is not correct, but we were told that it was, and I was wrong.
Okay,
Okay.
so what's going to happen is
So-
you all are going to get a
The-
copy of the 222 fund.
Okay.
Okay, so now let me just say, and Jeff, you're absolutely correct, that we should be identifying where it's coming from. The only thing is because it's coming from the A fund, and there's so many lines in the A fund, we're not directing which line in the A
No,
fund to
well-
take it from.
Okay, but we're not doing that anyway, because we're not doing a cleanup at this point.
Right.
We're waiting for that schedule, which we actually need to move forward on
Right.
budgeting.
Right,
So, let's say, using a fund, general money, to pay for this expense in the sewer six.
okay, so,
We're being
You-
specific enough, and we know it's gonna go on to that due to
right,
list,
right,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to deal with it,
To
but,
be repaid.
yeah.
right. Okay, so, Jean, you accepted his friendly
I
amendment?
accepted his friendly
Okay.
amendment,
Thank you.
and I
second
raised
it.
him.
And I second it.
Okay, and is everybody in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion so
Aye.
carried.
Thank you.
Okay, USI video.
Bob, could you join us real quickly?
I'll help us.
Okay, so that's the shredder. We did
And just so you know, we're not against it, we're just trying to figure out the
No,
funds.
I
Yeah.
understand, you know, I
Okay.
know the history, so I
Do you
can,
need a
Right.
copy of them both?
yeah.
So what does it mean?
Just pay
Because
it.
you were watching.
Yes.
Okay, what it means is, before last year, they used to pay the coordinator fee out of, the town paid the entire thing out of the combined fund,
A fund.
and then they would bill the village a portion of that. Now, the $270 was based upon, I'm not quite sure what it was based upon, but because the Nexus was bought by both the village and the town, the town doesn't require the coordinator to input their meetings into the Nexus because we do it live right in there. The village requires the coordinator to take the digital file, convert it, bring it over to the Nexus and put it in there. So that, they asked me how long that would usually take, and I said about 2 hours. So that's 4 meetings. So that's 8 hours. At $30 an hour, it's $240. I don't know where the other $30 came from. I just did what Tony asked me to break apart.
All right, wait a
That's
minute.
scary.
Hold on a
Well,
second.
it's just a matter of, it was the same amount of money. It had nothing to do with that. It's the same amount of money, it was
The-
just.
Okay,
a
but
matter of-
that's to convert the villages.
Yes. If the village had that machine there,
Right, over there.
they
Right,
wouldn't
no, I
have to pay
understand.
Bob to do the
Right,
conversion.
so why are we paying Bob to do that, and why is it not incorporated into the village price? That's
They
something
get
that
it
I
Because,
don't
because
understand.
the village paid for half the Nexus.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay, so they're not getting the benefit of that, paying that. They paid, what, $5,000?
Right.
I think
So they're
about
getting
that.
a credit, basically.
For how
So
long?
because,
Well, because there's only one
Until
system,
we
we have
change
the
the
system, we
contract.
don't have to pay for that, but they have to incur an expense. We're being generous by splitting. Well, I don't mean to say
That's-
generous, because that's not fair. You know, I mean, because simultaneously the reverse would happen. If they had the system, we would have to pay. And so I guess it got agreed that it would be split between the town and the village too.
Except for that part of Bob's payment, which we give a credit to the village for essentially, because the physical machine happens to be in our building.
Why didn't we just pay for it?
you used to
Pay
do
for
it.
his time.
No, why don't we just own the machine outright and the village doesn't use it?
The village does use
We-
it. They broadcast all of their meetings
but
over it.
you were
They-
saying-
They can't,
The village paid for half of it as
Right.
part of the original agreement
Right.
to
But
get.
if we paid their portion back to them, there would be no credit owed?
Well, yeah, you could charge them the fee, if they want to get their meetings on to Nexus. Yeah, that's, yeah.
We didn't
But-
want to take the
but-
$10,000 hit ourselves, though,
Right.
for the equipment.
So, and just so I understand, I mean, our meetings are broadcast live, their meetings are broadcast live.
Right.
But we don't need you to then get it onto the web, but they have to pay extra money to do what you need to do to get it
You
for the
mean to get it
web?
on channel 23?
Yeah.
To get into the Nexus, into the system, someone has to come over here and read it.
So you have to
into
take the
system.
village board meetings, bring them over here,
Yeah.
and translate them into
They
the
have a
system?
modulator so we can do it live from there, but it doesn't go into the Nexus, so it doesn't record into the Nexus.
And what is?
Right now, we're recording directly into the Nexus, so there's no extra work done for the town.
And the Nexus was something that was paid for by both the village and the town.
Correct.
$10,000.
Wait, so just so I can understand, not that it really matters at the end of the day, but our meeting is broadcast live,
Right.
and it goes into the Nexus.
Correct.
What does the Nexus do?
The Nexus is a server, a video server, so it can record a signal going into it.
Okay, so our meetings are broadcast live, and it's recorded, and it's there
It's
to go, into-
stored.
and it's stored, and it's there to go into the internet.
Real time.
Yeah, it's stored in there, and then we can
Rebroadcast.
schedule it and rebroadcast it.
For Channel 23.
Okay, so in other words, so the village meetings, because of the modulator, you can broadcast them live, but they couldn't be played over and over again unless you came and fed it into the Nexus.
Correct.
Okay,
And they need to feed into the Nexus so they can be rebroadcast.
right,
Correct.
So rather than buy two, you bought one and we split.
and then we're paying. to-
Otherwise, if you had another one over there, they could just
Yes,
have it
absolutely.
inputted
And we would be
simultaneously.
knocking each other off of Channel 23.
I don't think we'd be doing that, would we?
Actually, the village has priority on the line system for Time Warner Cable, so if they plugged in right now to go live, they would knock you off. It's something to do with, they have a hierarchy of what broadcast signals go in, so.
Is there a way
Susan, you
to?
better do something about that.
I got
I
a list of about
understand
50
that-
things for her to do before that, by the way. You know what?
I understand
there's a
that,
big list.
that we're on TV so much that it's probably, people probably don't mind us being knocked off occasion.
No problem.
I guess, Josh, go ahead.
I just have a technical question. So, is there any way that that unit can be hooked up to the internet so that it can be transmitted, so it could be put into the system through the internet, digital thing, so stored so it doesn't have to physically be carried from the village to here? Is there technology available that will transmit it into the Nexus? Way to hook it up through the internet to digitally transmit the information by somebody pushing a button over there instead of you spending all those hours.
Yeah, that would be great.
Can that happen? Is that a physical?
I think it
Technologically, it
could,
can happen, right?
technologically, I think it could happen, but I don't think that system can do it. I know that system can do it. They want to sell us upgrades to a webcasting system, but even that, I don't think would do what you want.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think it's plausible. I mean,
Yeah, and it seems like it should be easily be done in some way.
easily.
Yeah,
Okay,
if there's
so-
anything that we should be thinking about year to year when we do this, please let us know. You know,
Well, I think we,
What we
our
redo.
main problem is the Time Warner Cable signal. The signal, I was at home and it doesn't sound anything like what I can hear here. It sounds much lower. I have to raise the volume way up. I listen to the camera's perfect. If you look on the internet sound should be pretty good. But the Time Warner Cable signal, since we're not making any money for them, they just don't give us the bandwidth. So when we go too loud, it starts interrupting the video signal. It leaks into it. And if we go too low, you can't hear it. And it's very, sometimes you get a good signal. It's very intermittent. There's no pattern. I've talked to technicians and they're saying, well, you have to talk to someone upstairs.
are they under contract to provide us with a certain signal?
Supposedly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if they're not, then they're not honoring their contractual commitment.
Well, our problem is we don't have a contract with them.
The problem is
We don't have a contract and we don't have an enforcing body. The
Okay.
PSC doesn't enforce
We
it.
have an alternative though.
We can go web completely but then you're
We
leaving out
don't
people
want
who are,
to knock people out of the loop.
Yeah.
You lose your viewers.
yeah. I think the web thing is probably something we're going to go to down the road eventually anyway. Because for one thing, this is standard definition. Everyone's going to be on high definition at some point. They're going to start saying, well, why are we doing this standard definition stuff? So in a few years, we're going to have to decide.
So you mean
on that.
saying, in other words, that our broadcast quality won't be equal to what else is out there, so people aren't going to want to watch us because we're
Well,
just
not
so
only
low
that, why,
quality?
why do they even want to carry the standard definition channels?
Uh-huh.
Everyone has high definition.
I don't know if I want to be seen in high def. I'm okay with standard definition.
Is there anything else we should be thinking about?
Well, I guess that's the main thing. Going live through Channel 23, that adds a lot of complexity to the whole system. If we were on the internet completely, that's a lot more efficient.
Now, Susan is speaking, has someone she can speak to that's at the vice president level or executive director? Pretty high up the food chain. Is that a person to start a conversation with then?
If you could start a conversation with anyone,
And then could that
and if they
convers-
call you back, that's even
Well,
better.
can
what
that
actually-
conver-
what actually
could
I-
she direct that conversation to you as the coordinator? Would that be considered part of your duties as the coordinator? Because they're going to start, like, our hope is to
I
get
am
someone
not
technical.
part of the contractual unit, that's the town and village that has to enforce the contract or
Then they could talk
the
to Bob.
franchise
Yeah,
agreement.
I'm not 100% sure of the person that I would call. If I asked to pick up the phone to call one of our public access coordinators, he would do it. It was really fortunate when I called that he picked up the phone and he spent a long time talking to me. For a short time, the person who represents us was being very responsive. As a matter of fact, after we hung up the phone, she called 5 minutes later and stuff, and she was being very, very responsive. But again, she's gone back to whatever. And I sent her an email basically saying, if you don't respond to me shortly, I will be calling your boss again. And so I think though I'll probably just call her boss directly at this point and sort of say, we've got all these issues, we've got all these problems, and
We got
Well,
both.
You know,
Kitty
maybe
could
what-
tell me if for 3 years we've been dealing with the same person, and it's like,
Yeah.
she'll talk the talk
right.
and then
And so
not
what
walk
happened was
the
when I
walk.
called
Yeah.
the top guy, and we had a long talk, and then he said to me, he basically said to me, well, when you talk to Brenda, and I said, I'm not talking to Brenda. I said, I'm only interested in talking to you. I have no interest in talking to her anymore. And he said, Susan, would you do me a favor? I need my regional reps to, be responsive, to be whatever, would you please try to continue to talk to her, and I'll talk to her. And I said, for you, I'll do it. I said, and then 5 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was her. And so, like I said, for about a month, she was responsive. But it's sort of falling back, so that's why I think he needs a phone call again.
There's just really no incentive for Time Warner
No.
to sign a
No,
contract.
there isn't.
No, because it's going to
Right.
cost them the $200,000 in construction funds, and it's going to cost them in equipment
Well,
and
this is what
potentially upgrades.
Well, what we can
need.
do is, I think this is what we should do. What my suggestion might be is that if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to take advantage of the lawyer on our board, and maybe we could sit down,
That's what I
Kevin, if
said.
it's okay with you.
We'll
I'm
have a
sorry.
conference call with your guy, Time Warner, first.
Well, this is what I was about to say, was that what I'd like to do is like you and I maybe talk a little bit more with Don Carter, with Dave Lent, with Bob, get all the facts, all the concerns, all the issues, and then I will call him and schedule a meeting for you and I to go meet with him and say, I would like a meeting with you, and you and I will go up.
I have one other suggestion.
So
Can we
that's
put
what we'll
this-
do.
Can we do this contract, put it on our organizational list so that we
Yeah.
can have a contract signed at
Well, I
the beginning
think-
of the year instead of
Yeah.
Yeah, that
toward
would
the end
be
of the
good.
year?
And
Yeah.
also, somehow to coordinate with the village that, the $270 thing and,
Yeah.
6 months here and 6 months there.
Yeah.
it's,
Well, I think we put the IMA on the organizational meeting. We could do this too, but what we had said we had asked Kitty when she goes back to the next public access committee meeting for her to bring up the fact of maybe rectifying this, so it's like, if we pay for 6 months, we pay the total amount, they pay for 6 months, and why are we all of a sudden now paying $270, and, they're paying the bigger freight. It's like, so we pay 6 months, they pay 6 months, let's be done, this is stupid. So
Or,
Kitty's gonna
if
bring,
you ever consolidate,
Well,
then,
Yeah.
right, then amazingly enough, we'd be paying And one pot. Wouldn't that be remarkable?
That would be nice. Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Bob, sorry you had to come back.
Well,
No,
don't
that's
leave yet
okay.
until
Thank
we
you
might not
so
want to
much.
leave until we
We
approve it.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Nice to know that one person's watching.
A lot of people watch Kitty. Don't you have people telling
Okay.
you all the time how much they watch?
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve the public access coordinator contract as well as the PA Town videography contract, both dated February 17, 2012.
Second?
Okay, but wait a minute.
Second.
I'll move it for discussion.
There you go.
It's just that the coordinator contract says it's through December 2012, and the videographer says December 31st, 2013. Is that your intention?
No, probably
I
change it to
thought that
12.
we talked about extending that because of the time we're approving it. We were just gonna approve it for the extra time, I thought. Did we talk about that last time?
I thought we talked about everything ending December 31st, so we have all new
I
contracts
thought
on.
we talked about everything ending December 31st, 2013, because we were also getting the benefit of that rate through that time frame too, correct?
Although he hasn't changed his rates.
So I think we talked about having that contract go all the way through to 2013. I'm pretty sure we did.
I honestly don't remember.
I honestly don't remember.
Was it our very
I have a pretty
last
good
meeting?
memory, but I
Our
just,
last meeting?
Well, and the
I know it
reason
was
being-
last meeting,
And the reason being is Kevin had pointed out that it would extend our rates.
We're not being,
Our savings.
it won't be increased.
There'll be no
next year.
increase in
okay,
rate. then.
so what
I don't
was,
remember talking about that at all.
I can't believe you can't remember that, Chief.
I remember.
We're
I have
talking
a
about
really
numbers.
good memory.
This is a numbers thing.
You betcha.
That's
But
what we
I
talked about.
thought the numbers we were talking about was contracts and Wilmer Wallens, I remember we did that.
yes, I still haven't
And-
called him to tell him that we
Oh,
extended
but-
his contract.
So I kind of thought that's what we were sticking with at the last meeting.
We did discuss that, but
But
we
on this
also
particular
discussed
one-
the fact that this contract is giving us a rate that's going to be good not only for the rest of this year, but for the rest of next year.
That was the labor contract.
There was also this too.
It
I think
was
it
which
was just-
I
contract?
think it was
The labor contract. It's a labor contract.
Wallace?
You're,
The labor contract, he
contract.
wanted
Then
it to
if
run
I'm
till
incorrect, I
June.
It was-
suggest
it was a labor
that we
contract,
do the
but-
same thing in this case.
No, what we did was we said it wouldn't run.
no, what we did the 23rd, we did the Bill Wallens one, so this way he was giving us these really good rates, and we said, let's just take it and run with it.
Well, because his
Okay.
increments weren't
Right,
that high.
right, exactly. So we said, let's just take it and run for it, let's not screw
So let's
around.
do the same thing with
And
this.
so Kevin's making the suggestion that while we're fortunate enough to have this rate, not giving them the opportunity to raise our rates, let's just lock them in now.
I,
I wasn't very convinced.
Right.
you can vote no.
You can vote.
You're right, I could.
Yeah.
Or you could
Um,
have,
Well, I think that that will kind of bind you. That you will have videography and your coordinator expires in December of 2012.
Yeah.
Is that your intent? Because you two made the motion. Right? You had a
I'm
motion
fine
and a second?
approving- I'm fine approving these contracts over there.
Mhm.
But if you aren't, you don't.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. I'm used to being outvoted. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, we've been pretty unanimous.
Yeah. When you get outvoted? Here? Home?
You haven't seen a 2 to 3 vote.
Yeah.
Just look at last year's video.
Let me ask you a
Okay.
question.
Some of those
We
Okay.
are
can
pretty-
resolve this now. See, this carries through to here,
Mhm.
and this one carries through to here. So we just make these go 2013, or?
I just,
So
we
you
have,
want
we
that
have please?
couple months.
what,
Do we do any?
no,
Did we end up not deciding to
I'm
do
up
any?
for either way, but I think that was just,
What do you want to do about
I was
these?
thinking.
If you,
So,
well,
how do you want us to-
We're not going to do this, we're not, right, right.
Probably,
Okay, but
Do you feel comfortable
state,
with it?
if, not the way it is, but if
All right,
you want me to modify it,
After,
Right, yeah.
goes
after
at 'em.
consulting with
Sure.
the contractor, Gene,
I'm
we're
sorry,
gonna
I made a
amend,
typo.
I
we're
wasn't
gonna
listening
amend,
to you.
Okay,
we're gonna amend the PA Town videography contract to end December 31st, 2012, so they'll both end at the same time, and that's fine with me.
Okay, but you don't have to do that for me.
and is that what the promise that
that's
you won't raise the
fine.
rates
If
if
it
we do
works out,
that?
that won't be raised.
Okay,
And
so,
I second the amendment to his motion.
Thank you.
okay,
All in
so
favor?
now we can all be unanimous.
Okay,
All in favor?
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Gene, you have,
Motion-
aye? Was that aye?
If that's what makes you happy.
No, it made you happy. We made them all
Look.
2012.
You know what? You guys are making me feel guilty because I ask pertinent questions all day,
Gee,
every
that's why we
meeting,
changed
and
it.
then people try to grill me
No.
because I ask questions.
No, he amended it to make you happy, so you could vote yes and we could be unanimous and you'd be comfortable.
And not even
But is
happy.
there a reason for
This
that?
is a
Yeah, because
guilt-free.
we're doing.
Because you raised the issue.
And what your
And it
issue was for
relevant, and we talked
sound
with the
fiscal
contractor,
practices.
and we're in agreement, let's just move
We're
on.
agreed. You had a sound
We're
fiscal
Great.
practice. It
We're all
made
agreeing
sense, so
with
we
you
all
because
agreed
you're so
with you.
brilliant.
This is
What's
a
next?
guilt-free vote.
You know, I'm gonna go back and vote no now, just because. I don't even
Nothing
know.
about this town is guilt-free.
Okay, so do I have, is all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
We're past
twice.
that, Susan.
Yeah.
Let's
Motion
move
so
on.
carried.
Now, and I apologize, we do need to take one minor step back, we'll take 30
Okay.
seconds. You didn't set the public hearing.
Oh, we didn't do the public hearing,
So
thank
I
you.
apologize, so let's
No,
go
we
back.
did. It was right in.
No,
it was in the resolution.
Oh, I apologize, was that in the resolution?
It was in the resolution.
Never mind.
Yeah, I had put that in before I said
Right,
that.
and it
What's
was
next?
though.
Kevin Barry moved
Yeah,
it, Jeff
yeah.
Logan seconded
Yeah.
it.
No, it wasn't, it wasn't.
It
I put this on there
Thank you.
because I
I just
didn't
wanted to make
realize
sure
it would
it was
be in
there.
the, yes, thank you, that was important.
For 2015,
What?
not 1915.
2012, she said.
No, 2015, the time she said. I think she made a mistake in it.
No, she said 2012 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall.
She didn't say 2012?
I thought she said 2012. That's what I heard.
Well, for all that are there, it is
Because you
2012.
don't want to have a problem. Yeah.
Are you talking about the public hearing?
The public hearing, when you
The
said.
public hearing is, the public hearing, I read the resolution. A public hearing on the three
October 4th.
proposed local laws is hereby set for Thursday, October 4th, 2012, to be held 7 p.m. at Town Hall, 1 Veterans Drive, Town
I
of New
just wanted
Falls.
to make sure nobody would.
Another
Yes,
clarification.
fine, thank
We're
you.
good.
Okay, so what do we have left to do? We need to
have
talk
some
about the budget.
prepays.
Well, we need to talk about the budget and police restructuring. When we had the court officer, why don't we just grab that one really quick and then do budget police restructuring?
Is it 11 yet? Can we wait?
No, it's only 9:45, so we still
Alright.
have some time. Okay.
So,
So anyway, just so you understand, okay, the thing with this court, with the court officer, I had gotten I got an email from Justice Katz about us appointing a court officer. A while ago, there was a court officer that was let go because of concerns about certain behavior and whatever. So they have been filling in with different people, and what I understand is they have one court officer at the door for the metal detectors, and one court officer at the bench to basically protect the judges from any kind of whatever. So they've been sort of filling in here and there. Sometimes they only have one person, sometimes they have the two. And so Justice Katz had emailed me asking if they could replace the officer that's no longer there with the person that was brought forward. He said they did do a lot of reaching out and trying to find somebody, talking to people. He said it's not the easiest job to fill because you're asking somebody to come in and give up their night for basically $36 because it's $14 an hour. But the person also has to have like sort of security clearance, and they have to be able to carry a gun. And there's a lot of background that they have to have, and finding somebody with those kind of background at the salary that gets paid is not an easy position to find. And so the person that they were bringing forward was somebody that they all know because she does work at the court in Gardner. And Carol called this person particularly to ask some questions because
I got pushy.
because Jean wanted to know, A, can she carry a gun,
Sorry.
and some other things. So I'll let Jean tell you what she found out, and we can decide how to
no,
go.
Can I just say
Sure.
that that this is not consistent with our policy on hiring residents, and so we need to advertise the position. And if no other qualified local resident comes forward, then we can consider this person. And I'm fine with this person staying on part-time if they need another body there. But the whole point of the residency law is that a job exactly like this should be publicly noticed. It shouldn't just be a phone call. It shouldn't just be reaching out. It should be
Publicly advertised.
Sure.
I'm willing to second that.
Which is
Okay.
fine, okay, but.
Okay, but wait a minute.
Wait.
All right, just so that nobody thinks I'm crazy. I will tell you why, and it was based on this particular resume that we had, which was very, very heavy on clerical. And one of my questions was, if you're going to be a court officer, I thought perhaps our court officers carried guns. Okay, and I didn't see any relevant experience like that. But then also in the job description, per the county, doesn't say you have to have a gun. However, the reaching out part had to do with whether or not this woman was qualified, and I just want you to know what I found out. But I'll agree with what you said. She has like 7 years in the military, and she's licensed to carry a gun, so she can
I did
be a
read.
court officer, even though it's heavy on the clerical, which is why the reaching out, because I was like this.
So on a temporary
So-
basis,
so-
you can work there, and we're gonna advertise and see if there's
Okay,
anybody.
so we'll have a motion to tell the justices that they can hire her on a part-time basis, so they have the security in the court
Right.
for their
Yes.
comfort level, but that we're then gonna simultaneously move forward with advertising.
Following our policy.
And for them to put
Our
together
law.
a,
An-
job
an
thing.
ad.
An ad and whatever, and we'll advertise, and then we'll go from there.
Great.
But at least this way
Great.
they have the security for the moment,
Absolutely.
right now.
I'll
So-
second that motion.
Okay,
Good.
did somebody
Good.
make the motion? You did, Kitty,
I
right?
think I
Yeah, you
did.
made the
yeah.
Someone
Okay,
made the motion,
okay.
yes.
So that's why I wanted to keep it on the agenda,
I
so we
agree,
could
yeah.
make sure that
Okay,
they have the
great.
security
Thank you.
right now.
All in
Okay,
favor?
okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's so carried, okay. The budget, as you all know, unfortunately, my life is going to be miserable pretty soon, and I have to start working on the budget. So you do know that...
Does that mean you've been having fun up until?
No. We basically, just so you do know, all the budgets from all the department heads are due tomorrow. We've already started getting in most of them already. So the worksheets are being collected by Carol, and she's marking off who's given them. I told you I asked for 0 and a 10% decrease. Some people actually, they didn't necessarily give a 10% decrease, but we're getting the budgets and everybody's having it, and we'll have all those budgets, and by tomorrow we should have all of them except for possibly the police, which hopefully we'll have by next Tuesday. And so we'll start to put them all together and go from there. But there were some discussions we had as a board in terms of moving forward about how certain costs were, what we wanted to do, like the ambulance and other things in terms of how we wanted to move forward. So that's why I wanted to just have a discussion with you as I start to work on putting this budget together, what you would like me to start considering and not considering, and do we want to basically have me put into the budget that we're paying for the ambulance out of the B fund and we're paying for half of it versus paying for it all out of the A fund? Do you want me to put that in the budget? Do you want to have that for discussion with the village board? And there are other expenses or stuff. I mean, we were going to have a conversation about Memorial Pool in terms of where we go in the future with whether we, split the cost and whatever. So it's just there's certain things that we've talked about that we've never come to conclusion. And now that I have to put the budget together, I just want to get some direction from the board in terms of some things you might want me to consider, or B, you want to have a special meeting with the village for us to talk about, or how you sort of want to proceed. But
Well,
I don't want to put a
like-
budget together, bring it back, and then
but like
have you
one of
say to me,
the-
why did you do this?
And Jean was there for it, I know Kitty, you were here, I think you were in the village. Terry had found a law and also controller's opinions that indicated that the village cannot directly enter into a contract with the ambulance service, so it was then not possible for us to then bill them, to share the bill
But
with
that,
them.
but there's another sentence at the end
Right.
of that.
I actually should run up and get it because,
Well, I don't want to
Right.
get in that much detail, but I mean, I have no
We can-
problem having conversations.
we can.
And that was the board's feeling too, and I think where a lot of these conversations, and I mean, I will just speak for myself because we actually have a mayor and a supervisor speaking. I have no problem with you doing, I don't, you and Jason can't go into obviously tremendous detail, but if you and Jason could meet about the fire contract, I know he was meeting the other night with the fire department in discussing the contract. I don't know what came, that was, I believe, last night. And I think maybe if you have a meeting and you can discuss with Jason what his feeling is, where the board is going to go towards splitting the cost, because roughly half the calls are in the village
Right.
for the ambulance, half the calls are in the village for the town. I apologize, for the department. So, I mean, obviously, myself, I lean towards that it's a 50-50 share. So, I mean, without having you to do a lot back to this board, I think it'd be productive if you had a conversation with, I'm comfortable with you going to the mayor to discuss this and then see where that goes.
I thought we had talked about it, so I think you should talk to Jason as well, because I thought we had talked about it as a board, that it was our intent to have our own town outside of village contract with the new Paltz Rescue Squad.
Well, that's what,
Okay.
but that is what the board said, and there was research that was done that does say that we are able to do this.
I don't
And
think,
so-
I don't think we can exclude the village, but I think that there's the thing that gives us the opportunity to renegotiate how we pay for it is the sentence that says, I think we are required to provide ambulance service to the village, but there's some extra level of service that village residents are supposed to get, and I don't know if that's satisfied by the fact that I think 95% of the volunteers are town residents. And so I think if the village were to try to have its own ambulance corps, I just don't think they have the personnel.
And I just want to let's make it clear too that
Are we
the
talking
deal.
about ambulance or fire?
Well,
We're talking ambulance, not fire.
ambulance.
but actually
Right,
fire
that's
is
what I
saying,
thought.
yeah.
Yeah, we are talking
Fire is,
ambulance.
right, ambulance. So
Yeah.
fire is already divided,
Right.
right.
Right, well, because it's a fire,
Okay,
it's a village fire department,
Right.
we contract for
We also have the
services.
same number of people living in the village and the town outside.
Right, I did not know it was a problem for the village to pay for their own rescue squad, to have their own contract with the New Paltz Rescue Squad. They had their own for years.
Well,
But
there
then the
is,
mayor's, Terry.
No,
don't
what
you-
Terry discovered was that the town was paying for the town outside of village portion of their share of the rescue squad in the A fund.
Well, then that-
That's what Terry found.
and that's what happened, and what happened was,
Okay, but prior to that, way back in the day, Susan had negotiated, and the town outside of village portion of the rescue squad was in the B fund, and that's fine.
Right.
And then the village has their own, and that's in the village.
And
And
what-
so, I don't, other than the double taxation for the years that it was in the A fund, why is it a problem that there's two contracts? I
there
don't-
should be.
There should
What happened,
Okay.
and again,
Yeah,
and there
should
shouldn't
be.
be, and what happened was, Mayor Nyquist, we had paid for it all, and then I think part of it was, again, the expense of the police, and us incurring all the police and trying to get some more equity, and so Jack Sand, Joe Moriello, myself, and Tom Nyquist, and I can remember the meeting, like it was yesterday, sitting in Village Hall, negotiating this, and the village gracefully, said, yes, we will pay for it, and Jean's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So then what happened was, we had it in the B fund, they paid for theirs, we had separate contracts, and then at a certain point in time, the town government started to put their portion into the A fund, and that's when Terry said,
That's right.
we're paying out. and then
That
it's-
is illegal.
And then
So-
the town went back to having to pay for the whole
And I think
thing.
part of this conversation needs to be too, just to add to your conversation, is under Tony, and I disagree strongly with it, is she moved all the snow removal over to DBA, and it belongs in
So-
DB.
so-
And I know that could be upsetting to some of you, but I really do truly believe that it is not fair that we're
Yeah.
billing
So-
village residents for town
Yeah.
snow
So
removal.
let me tell you what I've learned, okay? So
Do tell.
I will do tell because I brought this up with the controller. And they ended up actually, and I'll get you copies of it, it's up there, they brought me the opinion. Actually, we are allowed,
Yes.
okay, to put the snow plowing for the town into the DA line because the village residents who are town residents use our town roads. However, if you want to put it into the DA, you have to do it by resolution, which I don't think this board ever did. Okay?
I never,
Okay.
if we did, I can
I don't
guarantee you.
remember that one.
No, no.
I can guarantee you there would have been quite a bit.
No, you did not do it by resolution and stuff. So we can legally do it, but there's a process to do it. And I don't suspect that there's probably anybody on this board who really believes that we should be putting snow plowing for the town outside the village onto the DA line, and that it is our obligation to plow our roads, it's the village's obligation to plow their roads. Town residents use the village roads just like they use our
But
roads.
if
Let's
you
accept
apply-
responsibility for
Yeah,
our,
but if you apply that principle across the board, then the police would be 50/50, the ambulance would be 50/50, and everything would fall down the right line
Right.
instead of the wrong.
so you mean in other words, we should put it into the DA fund because we pay for the police will screw
No, I'm
it?
just saying we should straighten it all out.
Well, if we consolidate, we
Right,
might.
okay,
And-
so
and
Kevin,
well-
no, Kevin's on the right
Right.
line.
That's right.
And you just have to keep working hard and.
And I think
Okay.
where it's working out is we also have two, we have highway superintendents that actually always have worked
Right.
together.
They talk
And
together.
there are certain roads that they agree to plow that are in the village and town, and it works out for the best
So,
of all parties
I mean,
here.
the snow plowing line, as I recall, was about 300,000.
Yeah.
You had 3 years ago, in
Yes.
2010, you had $50,000 in the DA line because by law, you have to put the highway superintendent's budget into the DA line because the village residents elect the highway superintendent.
Right, okay.
So that,
Salary.
it's
Salary.
his salary and other stuff. So
But-
back when we were doing the budgets, it was always
We
in the
put
DA.
it in DA.
We put 50,000 in
Right.
DA and all the snow plowing money was in DB. Up until 2010, you had in 2010 you had 50,000 in the DA and the snow plowing was in the DB. In 2011, you had $325,000 that got moved into DA, and in 2012, you have 350,000 in
Right.
DA.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the rationale for that, and,
Well, it's
It's probably not
it's a
kidding.
heap of money because in 2010, $272,500 was spent in
About
snow
300.
removal in town outside of village. And in 2011, $528 was spent in town outside of village. Now, I know we only had a little bit of
28?
snow.
It didn't snow in the town that year. I
$528.
remember it clearly.
Okay, well,
I remember very clearly.
I'm just
We
gonna
had a
keep
little
looking
snow,
while
yeah.
you keep talking and I'll find it.
Well, I know that when I talk to the outside
That is
auditor,
correct, actually, you don't need to dig for it, it is correct, because it was all put into the.
That is
DA fund.
horrendous.
I agree, I'm not gonna, I said that many a time,
You're
except I
So-
use a lot more,
so the
Well,
outside,
you did worse,
so the outside
Colorful.
auditor, she said, the outside auditor, when I brought that up to her, she said, she said, I saw 50,000 in 2010, and then I saw 325,000 in 2011, and then, and then 350 in 2012. She goes, I was wondering what was going on. I said, well, that's because this was done, and she said, I they.
and if you go back and look, there is actually, Gene, if you go and look at some of the communities that do it, they are, quite a few of them are actually ones in Long Island where there are small villages and towns, and all of the plowing is done by the town completely.
Right,
And it actually makes sense because the villages don't even own a plow. There's some villages that are
Right, because they're like that big.
exactly, and the town is around it,
Right.
and then it's, so there actually is some justification for it in some communities. I do not believe, I do not support having a village person pay for a road being plowed all the way out in the end of our community.
See, that's the problem we have, because we have a town that includes a village. And so
Don't you be missing my
there
village.
is a benefit, if you think about it, they are part of the town. So how do they effectively share in the town expenses and how don't they? So I don't see how you can, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I don't see how we're not doing the same thing with the police department. You know? I mean, all of the police department could be in the village.
Okay, it snowed in the town of New Paltz in 2011. It's just that village residents paid for it. $0 was budgeted in the
Village
townwide.
residents- wait,
Well,
village-
all of us paid for it.
Right. but
Okay.
Village residents
And
generally paid
the-
25%.
Well, the cost of it was $281,200, and in the town outside of village, it was $500. I'd say that's a little, a
That's-
bit of a discrepancy.
I didn't see a
Well,
weather,
I
I didn't see a
don't
weather
remember
report in that whole patrol report. So
Okay.
I debate with you.
Snow.
Okay.
Did you, sure?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
anyway, I mean,
The question
unfortunately, it's
is,
gonna,
are we going to start
Well,
seriously thinking about which services are only used by which residents?
well, I think the actual conversation, because Susan's the one who's got to sit down with the mayor, is that, also letting the mayor know that we do agree, well, I apologize, maybe the whole board needs to weigh in, at least I agree, and it seems like we have another board member that agrees that it does not belong on the A line. That does plowing will be moved back. I would like to see it moved, as I have asked for the last several years, back to the B line of the budget. And that would relieve some of that tax burden on the village residents. Because it will be on their town, but they will still pay part of it, be on their town bill. It's on it'll just be
See,
a town,
the
it'll be a
difference-
B, it'll be DB instead of DA, DBB instead of
the
DBA.
difference,
So the
Kevin,
village residents will not pay.
They will not, but
pay for our snow plowing in the town outside the
they will not
village.
be paying for snow plowing
Right.
outside, in the
So-
town.
But they,
But-
go ahead.
My memory of this is that this came about during one of our budget discussions about the size of the police budget. And the town residents saying, we don't really use the police to the same degree that village residents do. So then we get into, are we really going to divide up? It's sort of like public education. After your kids are through school, you don't stop paying for public education. So I think the feeling was that town residents pay significant taxes for a police department that they don't use to the extent that village residents use.
And I absolutely agree with you, Kitty, and I think Kevin said the exact thing, and I would totally agree with you on plowing, except for the village has these big trucks with big plows on them, so they have the ability to provide their own clearing of their streets. They do not have a bunch of cars there with flashing lights on them and guys with guns, so they can't provide their own police. So
But
since
they
they all,
could. I mean, the town could dissolve, right?
I think
right.
Kevin brought up a very accurate conversation. You're bringing up a very accurate conversation. I will agree with your conversation. I think they could, and maybe they should, and maybe the town, since it is a very rural area, should be protected the way many communities that are very rural in character are being protected all over New York State by both sheriffs and by
troopers.
New York State troopers. Under state law, sheriffs have to provide
Right.
protection.
Well,
That's law. That
that's
is what they do.
An excellent solution.
I
but-
called four college towns, two of which had towns and villages. And out of the two that had to combine, the village paid the entire police bill. And the towns didn't have a police force.
And in
And
Long Island,
when I asked them, well, why are we doing that differently here? She said, you guys are crazy.
well, all
Did you get that quote?
I'd be very happy to take the $300,000 out of the A fund and ask the village to pay the police budget. That's it.
Okay,
That
so
one-
now coming back to
Hopefully-
reality, because I have to do the budget,
Now,
and I
just
don't
so you
think
know,
that's gonna happen in the
and I've been
next
around-
conversation with Jason.
And I've been around long enough to remember when we did have I apologize if I have the colors wrong, but we had a brown uniforms on our village police officers, and I believe it was blue or gray in the
On
Look.
the police
Okay,
town
on
police
the police
officer.
officer in the
Okay.
town, and that was it.
Okay, so anyway, let's focus again
Susan,
from.
go
the-
ahead and have those discussions.
So-
So, I mean, from the perspective of, look, we all know this is conversations we've had. Maybe the town and community will embrace a one community. We'll get the $1 million a year in perpetuity.
That'd be great.
We'll reduce our taxes. And my belief, I've said to people, I've said this to the police commissioner, I've said this to the chief. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, okay? That right now you've got a resentment from the residents in the town outside the village.
Yes.
That we're paying for the police because the village has a village government. And as long as the village has a village government, they should provide the services to their residents. If you had one government, okay, then the cost to police the community, I don't think people would begrudge as much because it's one community and it's our cost to basically
But-
provide the services, but we still have to find a way
The
to
bids-
allocate that cost in a way
the
so the right
business
people
improvement districts
are paying
help
for it.
meet
Okay, but, and that, you know, if that happens by next year's budget, that will be great. But for this year's budget, I think the big thing that's missing in the picture is that the town absorbs so much of the true cost of running this particular community that it's hard for people in the village to see any benefit in consolidation.
with you there.
Because right now, you know, the big nut is the police department. And as long as that's solely in the A line, and so many other projects that really benefit the whole community are in the A line, but as we all know, village residents contribute, I think it's 25%
It
towards
was
the actual.
26 cents,
A line.
27 cents
Right,
last year.
okay, but hold on. I think you're wrong, only because the results of the study was that the village taxes with a consolidation are gonna go down, 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 and that the town outside of village was gonna go up.
And that's because
So-
the town will absorb even
Right,
more
more, that's right.
of the village.
That's right.
But with your bids, what the bid does is reallocate.
Right, all I'm
portion.
saying is that, no, village residents are not anti-consolidation because they don't want to absorb a greater portion of the cost of the police department. That's not what I'm hearing in the village.
Right, but that's because, right, that the advantage to village taxpayers will be even more significant after consolidation because the town already put so many community-wide projects into the A fund.
So
So-
you're right, Kitty.
Kitty's
And that's
right.
why town residents will, as part of this consolidation project, will want the business improvement
Yes.
districts to take an unnecessary burden that's placed on them because of services provided to residents of the village that aren't individuals. Do you follow me? That are more
Right.
organizations.
Entities, right.
And that's
We
where
all
it
want
belongs.
that.
But-
That shit
right,
belongs
right.
somewhere else.
So we all want that, and we're all going to strive for it. We're going to hopefully try to move it forward as fast as possible so we can do it. But right now, still at the end of the day, I have a budget that's due September 30th. So we have 30 days to. Now again, we can always change the budget, so it's not a problem. It's just that there's 30 days for me to put something together that reflects the thinking of this board.
So your preliminary is due on September
30th.
30th?
So,
Wow, that's
With me,
pretty
ta-
quick.
with me taking a vacation in between.
Wow, really? You need that vacation? I don't
I'm
think so.
taking that vacation. You better believe I'm taking that vacation.
well, you know, I'd like to see Bill's budget for Moriello. Are we going to ask the village to split that with us?
I have some information on Bill. Do you want to send me a little note?
And so just before to preface his note, if I think it's the note talking about his budget and stuff.
This is the
This
note
is-
about how he's done this year so
Yeah,
far. and then-
okay. And so just so you do understand, again, he put that together partly because when we were talking about the budget, and he said to me, when I said, you know, asking everybody for 10% decrease, he's saying my numbers reflect the reality of what it costs to run the pool. And I said to him, and he said, and that's when he said, Susan, last year, the supervisor took my budget, just took $5,000 off of personal services, and that's the budget that was put in. He goes, the amount of money that was there for the lifeguards, you know, to provide the services for the time the pool's open. So I said to him that, you know, that this, if 5,000 was cut off, then what needed to be was a number of days needed to be cut.
That's exactly what we
Right,
said.
that the pool needs to be
Right.
open later, or it needs to close sooner, or it needs to be less,
Exactly
open less
what we
hours,
said.
but you can't cut
Right.
money from the lifeguards and still expect them to be there the same amount of
And we said
time.
maybe you can't open Memorial Day.
Don't you
Right.
think, though,
So,
don't you
well,
think that?
So then anyway, so Bill said he was running out of money, but because Bill, it's been so hot, and they've been getting so much money coming in, that his revenues are probably gonna offset the cost.
He's
And so I
estimating.
asked him to put that together and bring it back to us.
So he's,
All right, well,
he's-
that'll be easy
he's
enough to
saying
see.
that he thinks he's going to come in 10,000 under his budget, and that his revenue line, he estimates at 128 versus what was budgeted at 102. So he's going to be ahead of the game. But going forward, because the pool, especially in hot years like this, is so important to the members of both the town and the village, it should just be split between the town and the village. We'll operate it if they want, but at the end of the year, when we figure out the revenue and expense, it should be a 50-50 split. That's it.
Right.
It should be simple.
And I'm a little concerned that this year's revenue is probably pretty big because of Rosendale.
Rosendale,
Right.
and because of the.
Right, exactly.
Although from what I heard, it's not, that the Rosendale isn't so much.
Really?
We could get
It's
the
because it's so hot, and it's been so hot, it was so hot for so long, and we also, I think, extended hours and stuff.
We extended
we
some
did.
days, we added
Right.
days.
It's a great year for the
Right.
pool.
It's been a
So,
great year
yeah.
for the pool, but yeah,
Right.
Rosendale definitely did have an impact on the, because he has more out-of-town memberships than normal family
Just so you
memberships.
do know, that one of the things he pointed out to me was that the YMCA uses the pool, and he absorbs that cost. He has to put on extra lifeguards, but he absorbs the cost, and we don't charge the YMCA for the time that they come and use the pool. So he was saying that that's something, I'm not saying we want to do it or consider it, he's just saying, he was just pointing out to me that he's absorbing certain costs that,
I believe there's only 2 mornings where the YMCA is there prior to the normal open, though. Don't quote me, and I believe there's only
Yeah.
there are a couple mornings where he does have to bring in staff earlier because of the Y. But again, the Y is a town-sponsored
How-
program,
yeah, so, yeah.
How do we structure dividing expenses and sharing revenue?
Somebody's got to operate it. So maybe the town operates it like we're operating it. And at the end of the year, there's a reconciliation, and we give the village a bill. If we make money, we give them a check. If we lose money, we give them a bill.
But if this year's budget for Bill is $200,000 and he expects revenue of 150, we have to pass our budget in October.
well, actually, we passed the budget in November.
Okay, so, and do we just put half of those numbers in our budget and then advise the village that when they have their budget in June, they're responsible for the other half? How does that work?
A couple options. I mean, you'd have a couple options to fund it, and you'd have a couple options to manage it. So Jeff and I are going to have to do some more work with our counterparts in the village, but really, the pool is essential for our community. So, and it's used by village and town residents. It's convenient for the village residents to walk there and use it. So I think going forward, we just have to explain to them that there's going to be a lot of community backlash. If the town is forced to keep absorbing these expenses, there's going to be a point in time where the town doesn't have any other choice but to do something very drastic. And we don't want to do that, but we have to encourage the village and our counterparts that it's important for them to pick up 50% of the overall loss of operating the pool.
So should we get a contract?
A contract.
There's a
But I mean,
novel idea.
again, we're in a situation where the budget's due September 30th, and these are conversations. I mean, I can have a conversation with the mayor about the ambulance and about the pool, although you're gonna have the conversation with
We'll schedule a meeting with Stuart and
Ariana.
Well, so you can budget for the whole thing for September 30th, and by the time we get to November, it'll be ironed out.
Yes.
Well,
we
so,
could reduce
so
it.
in other words, I can put into the first budget go round half the ambulance and the B fund, and the half of the cost of half the revenues for the pool and half of the cost of operating the pool.
I wouldn't
And
take
put-
that risk. Half of the ambulance I would go with. That's not a problem, because that is precedent where the
Right.
village had done it before. But before the pool conversation happens, I would budget for the full pool thing for September. And then as the conversations progress, when you do a tentative, you can maybe bring it down to half if we're far enough along.
you might as well budget for the full, even though that's not what we want to do, because at least you're prepared for it.
Why don't we budget for the full and then budget for the revenue that we expect from the village?
Well, no, we'd be sharing the revenue if,
We'd be cutting our revenue, you'd
oh,
have
no,
to
you're
make
talking about,
adjustments
are
on
you talking
both
about the
sides.
revenue from,
The
to cover the
pool
loss?
operates at a
Is that
net
what you mean?
loss.
Well, normally,
Yes, yeah,
yes.
I know.
So you're saying budget for the revenue
For the net
from
loss.
for the net loss?
50% of net
Yes.
loss. Let's do that.
Let's do that, because then you're taking a hit on the revenue side, and
Right, I mean,
Yeah, but if
as
you're-
long as we show the anticipated revenue,
So that's going to be the
Then-
village's contribution.
yeah.
Okay.
But then what about the expense?
Gene,
we're gonna,
We
we're
budget
gonna-
for the
we're gonna-
whole thing.
We would operate as we're
I
operating
understand that.
now. But let's throw it out hypothetically. I think Kitty said 200,000.
Yeah,
And we bring in 150, there's a $50,000 loss.
Right.
Town absorbs half, village pays us 25.
and that 50,000 is pretty realistic too, because, again, we're probably gonna need a new pump soon.
So then that
A
costs-
slide goes for
Yeah.
$10,000.
you know what, yeah, if you wanna talk about that, the slide and the pump, these are things that we need if they need to go to public bid, because that
I agree.
$200 donation has to be done by December 31st, because that $200 donation is gonna go into fund balance,
Yes, it is.
December 31st, so if those bids need to be
We
done.
have a list of what
Okay.
he needs done.
Okay,
Okay, so for the
Just saying.
moment, I am going to deliver a budget with the ambulance and the beef fund, and I'll talk to Jason and tell him what we're doing for planning purposes. And we're going to put in the full cost of the pool, but then put in revenues to cover half of the loss that we hope to be getting from the village, and we're gonna put that into the budget, and then we're gonna continue to have conversations.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, it's, in the
Okay.
end of the day, it's not a huge number for the village or the town for what you get out of it.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's one of the great
Plus,
assets of this
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
the
Oh,
300,000
my goodness.
coming out of the VA line,
Mhm.
that's gonna ease the burden.
So, and then I'm gonna I'll also say how we're actually bringing that back into the DB
Well, that's a
fund.
discussion for, but yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that would be a good discussion to have.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And you're putting in for a lot less money for snow, because it's not gonna snow next year, right?
Yeah.
You're putting in a lot less money for snow, right, because it's not gonna snow next year? Because I asked you to cut the budget 10%, you cut it from snow plowing, right?
All of this allocation.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else relative to the budget that anybody wants me to think, consider, talk about prior to me rolling up my sleeves and getting to work?
There's one thing, I think we have to clarify our employee policy on part-time, full-time,
Yeah.
regular
Absolutely.
part-time,
Oh.
part-time, part-time.
Yeah.
It's so confusing,
And
Right.
benefits.
and we have to
Yeah.
set a certain number of hours,
yes, I
which are
agree.
the minimum. And part of our subcommittee work is looking into this stuff. And we're gonna recommend maybe 3 categories. Part-time is gonna be 30 hours a week or less. Full-time is 40 or more, and there'll be a category in between 30 and 40 if we want that. And those people would be offered benefits, but they have to contribute to
Wait a second, right now, I think
them.
it's...
Right now, it's confusing.
No, I understand that, but right
That
now...
policy is,
It's, technically, the policy says if you work 20 hours a week or more,
Right,
I know,
you're offered benefits.
right.
right.
So you could end up with a salary which is less than what your benefit package is every
Right.
month, which makes no
I,
sense.
I will get to that because
Okay,
I already
but
modified, but
it's
my kid's
20,
just going
not
back to
25?
college next
It's
week.
20.
Wow.
It
20.
really is silent
Right.
on it. It says regular part-time. There's a category, regular part-time,
Mhm. Right.
which is 20 or more.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the next page, it talks about
But,
benefits.
but,
The regular-
which is fine, but again, for the purposes of doing the budget, right now, we have a number of, I think, part-time people at 20 hours that are getting benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to change this policy, then doing the budget going forward, you start to take away the benefits from the people making,
I don't think you can take them away from current employees.
Yeah, it would have to be from this
Info.
day forward.
I think we have to have a bigger discussion about that.
Well, no, because I don't know if any of our 20 hours are covered under any type of contract, so
Okay.
we probably actually could.
And we have to, we
Change
have a
those.
meeting coming up with our healthcare broker.
Ah.
So we're gonna be discussing all this with him too, but I think we should have some kind of meeting on maybe a separate day for what we're gonna do here. I'll give you our recommendation from our subcommittee, you're gonna get that anyway, and it talks about all this stuff that
Okay.
we're trying to do.
Okay.
Have a good meeting with Jason.
We actually met today on sewer and water. So we're talking, okay, so,
I guess the other thing is, do we need to raise our water rates?
oh, no, well, right now the village is gonna be raising the rates again soon, so God knows. But what we have to do is, the rates might be okay now to cover your expenses, and partly our expenses might be going, our expenses are gonna be changing, so let me just give you a very quick update, okay? Because you know that Bob Leghorn is retiring, and we need to take care of the fact that we only have one licensed operator versus two.
Yeah.
So Chris, myself, Dave Clauser, and Bob Leghorn have been meeting. The operator for the village water and sewer is this guy Chris, and it's what, environmental consultants. So we met with him, and we met with all the, Blue and other people there too. Chris, the operator for environmental consultants, went out and looked at our sewer plant. And actually, quite frankly, he thinks our sewer plant, Sewer 6, is actually a wonderful sewer plant, and he was actually very impressed. And
Wow.
he understands the problems, about being, 50 feet and all that, and the intensity of it, but he thinks that it's really incredibly well maintained and quite a plant, and he was actually very impressed, believe it or not. So that's actually a compliment to all of our, to Bob Leghorn and Barbara and whatever.
Absolutely.
So where we're at right now is in the short term till we figure out our longer term water and sewer needs and what we do with Sewer 6, which is a longer problem. What we're gonna do right now is Dave Clauser has the contract, he's gonna go back and change a few things. Barbara can basically do all of the water testing every day. She can do the Sewer 6 work, and whatever, but she only wants to work 5 days a week, not 7 days a week, which is what's been going on pretty much. So what we're gonna do is, if there's like a water main break, the highway still goes, but environmental consultants will come and do the actual work, okay? Barbara will do all the testing for water and for sewer 5 days a week, and then on Saturday and Sundays, environmental consultant would come in and do the water testing and the Sewer 6 issues 2 days a week. All the sign-off will be done by environmental advocates to sign off the
Right.
legal paperwork, and in an emergency situation, if an emergency happens, they come in. So we have a contract that Dave has looked at, but Dave's gonna go back now and ask to change certain things to bring the cost down because of the work that we're gonna do, and hopefully we'll get the contract soon. We actually, as soon as we get it, we might actually even have to have a special meeting because we might have to approve the contract. It might be cutting it too close to wait until our first workshop meeting because Bob, it's too close to his retirement. We want to get things in place. So I had asked Dave if we could have it for tonight, but it wasn't possible because of some changes we want to make.
But that wasn't actually my question.
Well, so the point I was going to say was, the point is that cost, because we're taking Bob out of the budget,
Yes.
we're using just Barbara, then we have to take the cost of
Environmental
the environmental
consultants
consultants, and when we
included
get
in
that
Sewer
cost,
6.
then, well, it's not just Sewer 6, it's water also, because he started, they're doing the water stuff too.
Oh, okay, so
So we
then,
have to take that budget for the contract,
Oh.
then calculate that over the water and sewer districts, and then take
Okay.
Barbara's expenses, and then once we see what our expenses are to do the work, then we look at the money we owe, we look at our rates, and then we have to figure out.
okay, are you gonna do a realistic personal services breakdown across water and sewer and buildings and grounds
You mean
this year?
like you and I did the last
Yeah,
the
not
last
like what
charge?
was done in this year's budget, it's really, I can see that it is not realistic at all because it's just not. It's just not. I don't know how you are not charging any payroll to Sewer 6 when
They
you
spent all
have
the time there?
8 months of Bob Leghorn and Barb Coddington taking care of
Sewer 6.
Sewer 6, and the charges are nominal.
So why do you think a budget was never approved?
No, I'm
There
not.
you go. I mean, there's a
okay.
reason, yeah, so yes.
So
There were many errors,
I
and that would be
need
one of the many.
something realistic, like based on what's, like, Sewer 6 is probably the out of water and sewer, the one that demands most time. It's,
Right.
okay.
So but let me ask you a question,
I just
Jean.
want to know
Let
that,
me ask
if,
Jean-
are you going to be realistic?
Jean, can I
Prepare a
ask,
spreadsheet.
Jean, can I ask you a question? Do you need to be asking me that question?
No.
Thank you. Okay.
One thing you didn't bring up was the person with the pool.
Oh, right, that's,
During
an-
that point, the
that's
work
right.
To change filters and.
Right,
do
right.
Like a handyman.
Right,
kind of-
okay, right, thank you. Okay, this was another thing. Right now, in the way the budget operates, building and grounds goes over and services everything at the pool in terms of the pump and all sorts of stuff and emergencies, and a lot of it's overtime and, for emergencies and stuff. What Chris and I have talked about is that we'd like to put into the pool budget a person qualified on a part-time basis to handle, like, every day, to be there to clean the pump, to clean the filters, to clean the whatever. And so there's somebody in Bill's budget that's responsible for doing this stuff, and it's built into Bill's budget.
it's cheaper.
And it's much, much cheaper than our building grounds guys going in, being paid overtime.
It
So,
comes down
I-
to paying a person overtime for an hour every Saturday and Sunday to come in and clean 2 strainers.
Right.
I mean,
And,
for
and
an
just
hour,
so everyone knows though too, anyone's still watching, this is one of the great things we are gonna miss about Bob Leghorn, because he would very frequently just go and
You had a water
do it.
sewer
I mean, I would
department,
see him there
full
multiple,
department of 2 people
and
for
Bob would just
years.
go and just
Yeah.
do it, because it needed to be done. He didn't bill us
But
for it. It
I
was just
don't
part of his
understand why
job.
this isn't Bill. He's salaried. I don't get it.
well, this is.
Oh, no,
some-
you can,
have to-
no, this
you have to
is
be
above and
electrician.
beyond Bill's
You have to, some of it
skills.
you have to be electrical, and some of it
This
you have to have
is-
confined
This
space.
is actual
Yeah,
mechanical,
you have
this
to
is
have-
mechanical
You
work.
actually have to have
Yeah.
confined space to be able to.
Yeah, when Barbara did it,
An hour
but-
overtime
yeah.
to come
Well,
every
it should be
Saturday
part,
and Sunday.
should be
to do
part
it.
of the pool
It's
budget.
actual mechanical work though. It should be part of the pool
Well,
budget.
you have to have confined space, you have to have an electrical license.
Well, even
So-
just to clean the filters, we can bring people in if
Right.
they have a problem, but, just to have someone show up to clean filters
Right.
doesn't make
Right.
much sense.
So anyway, Chris is right that we've been working on talking about how to incorporate into the pool budget, taking building and grounds time out of that and incorporating into the pool budget the cost of maintaining the
It's more
pool.
efficient.
Right, exactly,
Okay, would you
so,
see if there's a civil service job description for that, or if we're allowed to
For 2
do
hours.
it non-competitively?
We are.
If the pool guys are unionized, could you?
no, but it's just like we do the lifeguards and stuff, it's gonna
This would-
be,
This would
it's
be a maintenance.
I
it's a
don't know.
maintenance, part-time
General
maintenance.
maintenance.
But
You
no,
just have to-
Okay,
why
but-
does it have to be a town employee? Why can't we hire a pool company? Isn't that what they do all summer? Does it have to be a town employee who comes?
It doesn't, I wouldn't think it'd have to be a town employee.
I think we
But
would
I think
say-
the service is
It's gonna be a
gonna cost you a
part-time.
lot.
We would save a lot of money if it was a,
But think it's only a
Part-
part-time seasonal person
Part-time.
who's put into the pool
Well,
budget.
Whatever is more efficient,
Right,
let's do.
well, that's what we're working on, and I forgot to
Okay.
point that out.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Have we approved the pump thing yet? Have we
Yes, you
done?
did.
We did, okay.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't put that on the bottom.
Okay, so there's nothing else about the budget that anybody wants to ask,
No.
talk about, and whatever? Okay, so with that, we are going to need to talk a little bit more about the police restructuring and the hiring, firing, and la-di-da-di-la of, but we'll do that afterwards, because I'll probably ask for a motion to go executive session. So, the only thing left is to do a couple of prepays. We are supposed to, actually prepay a payment for the steel building for Niffen for $27,000, and we're contractually obligated to pay in certain times, but I'll turn it over to Jean and tell you why we're not paying it. Good night.
So I reviewed the supervisor's copy, which has all the documentation attached, and part of that is the contract conditions. And the contract conditions say payment requests shall be approved, changed, or rejected by the engineer. And this request for payment for $27,056 is not approved, changed, or rejected by our engineer. And so I personally can't, until Dave Clauser vets it,
okay, let's table it.
I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for doing that.
And then-
Table it.
I'm sorry. Okay, and then you have another one for $6,440 for the Stacy, Moriello, and Murphy. Which, okay, Roseanne, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. And Jeff, you could help me if there's, remember last week you helped me with the escrows?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now I have my own list, if I remember to bring it all the time. But you were right, like that Hidden Ridge, okay.
Yep.
So there's.
I marked a bunch of stuff escrow, but I think I missed a few, so Jean's catching my,
Kevin and I are going to be going out to your house.
There is Lent subdivision on July
I know what my name is here.
24th,
The
2012,
house number, but go ahead and collect from them.
0.2 hours. It's written escrow in the right hand, and it's not being charged to the escrow. Then there's Lent subdivision on 7/26/2012 for 0.8 hours. Then there's Hidden Ridge on 7/24/2012.
And you're gonna mark, say escrow by
point.
that, so I can give that back tomorrow.
I can't give you dollar amounts. I can't break it down, Rosetta, because it's based on Jarvis. Okay, now that was the bill for July 31st. This is the bill for June 30th. This is 3 pages, and on it I have, I'll give you a copy of this. Pyramid Services, Hickory Ridge. Hickory Ridge is
Yes. Yep.
an escrow?
Yep.
Hickory Ridge, Lent subdivision. What about Hospitality
Yeah, what is
Inn?
It's the Hampton Inn.
Hampton Inn.
Hampton Inn.
Hampton Inn.
Okay,
Okay.
so you put that one,
Actually,
Are you saying,
some of these
These have to be
they weren't
charged
marked,
to
they weren't
the
marked for
escrow account instead of the B fund.
Some of them weren't marked for the escrow account, so
No.
I
they
caught,
should have?
Yes.
Yes.
right.
Okay, so when Jean is finished with this, we need to figure out why we're still doing work for people who have so much money in arrears. I mean, those people still owe us money here.
Well, we need to coordinate that with the planning board.
so we have 2 things here.
Wait.
One is, this is the exact reason why you need a full-time controller. That's one. 2 is, like, if I look at Hidden Ridge actually has thankfully, a 0 balance. There is a large negative balance on Hampton Inn, but
Yeah, that's a little.
that's not as simple as it seems, Gene.
Yeah.
Hampton, unfortunately, they were billed some things that they should not have been billed
Okay,
based on
well,
the
I'm sure
lawsuit.
Kelly will work that out.
Well, no,
Actually, she
Since
is.
she's doing all that historical.
Stacy's actually working, we're gonna have, just really specifically with the Hampton Inn, when you guys, the former board, you did passed a law to extend from the 30 days to 180 days for site plan stuff. When that was done, unfortunately, something was left out of the law that we have to rectify. And I also said to Stacy that when a project has an Article 78, really the clock should stop and they shouldn't be paying to consistently renew things because they have no
Right.
choice kind of stuff. So Jay has been putting money in and putting money in and putting money in while he's fighting a lawsuit, and he's already got like over $1.5 million into this project.
Wait, but if you're still appearing before the
He's
planning
not,
board,
he's not.
then why
It's
is
just
he
because,
putting money into the
because
planning board?
because he's only got a certain amount of extension, so he's constantly sending new work to get the extension
He's buying
extended.
extensions.
And so, but
You have to pay for the extension.
But because you have to pay for the extensions, but he's in an Article 78, and it's still going through, so he's consistently paying for extensions when he has no control over getting the work done and stuff. What Stacy said when I asked her to look into this, was she said part of the problem has been that Hampton's attorney is sending the stuff to George Lithgow. He's reviewing it, sending it back to the planning board and sending a bill. And Stacy said if the stuff came directly to her, she would just give it to Mike Calamano. The planning board would just approve it because they know it's just routine kind of stuff and that bill wouldn't be coming. And so unfortunately, the law, Jay's lawyer's trying to be responsible. He's sending it to the lawyer's reviewing it, and Jay's getting a bill. And she was saying Jay shouldn't be paying this bill, and this shouldn't be happening. And so she's actually trying to go rectify. And then when she went back and looked, she saw that something was left out of the law when you guys did the extent, when you changed it, that something was actually left out and omitted that's created a problem. And so she's going to come back with something for us to rectify.
I have a question for you.
So,
Gene, why aren't there billing codes for each project with subcodes for depending on its planning board or whatever? Why do we have to why do we have to do it like that?
No, they do have separate billing codes. In other words, each
Why can't we
one,
just
But
have a
it's not- but
separate?
it's
each
not
one's
in-
given a file code.
yeah, no, but it's
Should
not the
there
bill. It's not on
Well-
the bill.
Oh, I see what you're
No,
saying.
no, no, the bill is made out to the B fund
Right.
now, which means it'll be charged to the planning board.
Right.
But this is broken out here, but it only accounts for 2 projects,
Oh, I see what you're
which
saying.
is the New Paltz Views and Stop and Shop, and yet there's Pyramid, Hickory Ridge,
Now, for
Hampton
example,
Inn.
Stop and Shop, that's,
Why aren't there separate bills,
They actually
separate
Stop
billing
and Shop
codes?
has a
Well,
escrow.
because this is all, the attorneys consolidate.
No, but can't we just have our professionals bill us in a manner that's more efficient for us to review and input? I mean, you follow?
Kevin,
Who prepared
this
that?
page can be itemized. You charge it to the escrow by the escrow name.
Who prepared that?
That's done by,
This was done by your bookkeeper.
Okay, so she had to go through the bill.
well, no, she signed it.
Yes.
The top part was done, I believe, by Moriel DeStacy.
Oh,
No,
you-
no, no. Well, no, what ends up
I believe the
happening?
vendor did the.
No, what happens
account
was,
numbers.
no, what happens
But
is,
none of
no.
this has changed?
No, what happens is, this is the bill that comes in,
Okay.
like this, okay?
Well, meter before Gene got
Right,
to it.
but it's, but also simultaneously, and I said to you, I was surprised to see that, because I go through it, and I do that escrow kind of
Right.
thing. And so, so we get it, and I mark down escrow and all that kind of stuff. Then I think when Patty puts together the voucher, she
goes
does,
and
she does,
finds it.
she
Oh, I
does,
see what you're
she does
saying.
the
Why
codes.
is
Our professionals have that stuff already, and then break down the bill into subcategories
Oh.
under those.
So it makes
those-
less
Well,
work.
because
Makes-
your professionals don't know the subsidiary ledger codes that we're using
But
here.
we can give them to them.
Well, you could, but
won't
they're
probably get
the
billed for the-
professionals, but, it's not their responsibility to properly
But-
code the voucher.
Well, it's their responsibility to give us a bill
Which
for
they
their
did.
time, but we can direct them to give us a bill that itemizes by category, that makes it easier for us.
Well, actually, usually this is not really so much of a problem. Part of the problem was that Patty wasn't here, and this got done and prepared, and
When did this
the experience
come in?
wasn't there.
You just want to make sure, Gene, we're
Yeah,
trying
so
to make
we're-
sure.
we're billing the
that-
right people.
That we're billing the right people.
But my confidence is incredibly low that over the last several years, this has been done
And it
Correctly.
should be very low.
incredibly.
No, I think
It
you
should be very
charge the
low.
B
It should be under the
fund.
table.
It absolutely is.
And I think that
I think we paid a lot of money.
Kelly
that-
is
Yes.
helping you to recoup,
Right.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. Oh,
right?
oh,
And,
oh, that I
but-
agree to, yeah.
But I think a lot of it's been charged
Inappropriately.
inappropriately to planning
To
and zoning.
us.
Yes,
Or just to the
yes,
legal-
we,
legal-
we the
legal
taxpayers
fund
are
and
probably,
stuff,
we as the
Right.
taxpayers are probably subsidizing development in this community on behalf of the developers who
Because we
collect the
don't have
profit, we
proper
don't.
accounting.
Right.
Right, so all I'm saying is, I would make a motion to authorize the prepay to DeStacy and Moriello, but charging the appropriate escrows. And if it is modified in that manner, I'll okay paying him.
I'll second that.
Okay, and what, Kelly watches, hi Kelly again, so we will make sure that Kelly, goes through that and understands, that she takes those charges and sort of aligns it with this stuff to make sure.
It's an awful lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It should be easier.
It should absolutely be, it should be.
It's gotta be easier. It's ridiculous that somebody would have to take a bill and then look up the code and then apply it and build that voucher when it could be done a lot easier. That's gotta be what, a half hour, 45 minutes worth of somebody's time?
Surely their office knows which are escrow bills,
No,
and which
yeah.
is town
Sure.
business.
Well, but that's what
So-
he did. He broke it down so that it's easily
But-
visible.
Right, but when we're doing the vouchers, instead of you're having to say, just remind somebody and write it in, he could do that.
We should give him
Right.
our code.
Well, I don't know that we could actually do that,
Well,
but they
here's-
could have a
We-
note.
But we could designate, we could set up our computer so that we have a code that we
Okay.
share with them.
Okay, hold on.
That relates to
Hold
our
on.
internal code.
Okay, except that this CP number is a file number that you use up here in planning.
Well, they already do have the code though, because.
But that's not the code you use in accounting.
No, but I'm saying, very true, but I mean, so for example, if you took Park Point, it's 2012 dash 08.
Okay.
Because it happened, started in 2012, so it's, I'll make up the month. If they just use that code, that would be a very simple code for someone at Stacy and Moriello to punch in.
Well,
Okay, but
actually,
that's not what you're
okay, but when-
charging.
No, but
I
that's,
think-
but for her to match
Okay,
2012,
but let me ask you,
08
I think-
to our accounting code.
I think
is
one
very
thing
easy.
that might be just easier is if we just say to the consultants,
Yeah.
everything that's a B fund charge or an A fund charge, do on one bill,
There you go.
and everything that has to do, that goes to escrow accounts, put that on a separate bill, okay, so at least you pick it up,
Yeah.
and Kelly can say, okay, these are all escrow accounts, I'll charge it here, here, and here, Patty can put the right codes on it, end of story. Everything else is either A fund or it's B general fund for,
Because then
engineering
you
work.
can hand that bill
Right.
to Kelly,
Right.
Kelly
That-
can then
that-
reconcile
right,
hers.
right.
That sounds a lot
Right.
easier.
That makes sense.
At least as a first step,
Yes.
Savings.
okay?
And
It's just
efficiency.
more work for me to have to make a phone call and do this, but that's okay.
That's part
For
of
my
your part-
part-time
part of
salary,
your
my
part-time
part-time
job.
work, right. Okay,
What's
so
that?
we have,
So, the other thing is, how do we, so
No, just A.
these bills are coming to our attorneys on behalf of projects that are in arrears.
No, the attorney has done work on projects.
So we're gonna add that
Well,
amount
yes,
to the.
yes,
But what
absolutely.
I'm saying is, I think the way this is supposed to work is that until, this is what Paul Brown passed, is that until this is paid, they don't do anything.
right,
They
and
shouldn't
Kelly
do
and I
any
have
work.
talked about that, Kelly and I, because I said, why are we incurring costs for projects that don't have money? So I agree, and I think she said a law was passed or whatever. So what we have to do is go back to Mike Calamano and
But I
say,
don't know if Mike is the one who's forwarding this, that's the question. Are they just calling? Who is initiating?
no, but what ends up
these?
happening is when the projects come in front of the planning board and the attorney is there, so, okay, so
But
so for
land
Joe it's
subdivision
ZBA.
has not been in front of the planning board, and we're getting billed for it.
Well, that's
So-
because a lot of that has to do with the work we're doing on the road.
The
And all the stuff
roadway
we've been doing on that
construction
road.
and
All the
dedication.
stuff we've been doing on Ledge Drive. We've been working with Joe on the completion of the road.
Right,
So
so
that's
we
still
were-
getting
okay.
charged back to that escrow account. So that's Lynn Drive.
Hidden Ridge, okay, it says was done in June, but there's a bill for July.
That might just be his billing that they finished up and he never,
Well, doesn't, look, I have faith Kelly's gonna collect it. She will,
Yes, you will.
yeah.
What's
okay. So anyway, are we okay with this?
Well, all in favor? I made a motion, I don't know who seconded it.
It was seconded.
Yeah.
someone.
So everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, so the only thing left is,
I have to make a copy for you.
okay, so I don't think there's anything left that we need to do other
Do
than
we have
the,
any minutes that we have to look at?
Well, we have,
we're pretty much updated. We can do that next time.
Yeah, you could do them next
Oh, I
week.
did.
Yeah.
we have
All right, so I'm
these
taking that off.
What, Jean, what did it say?
prepayments to Romer Wallens, Dave Clauser.
That was last
We
week.
did that
We
last
did that
week.
last week, it was even worse.
Oh, this was in
Yeah.
my box from last
Yeah,
week.
that's because,
Okay.
okay? So,
Did they all get paid?
yeah.
Approved?
yeah. I think they all
Okay,
did.
well, when we go into executive session, I'd like to talk about the bill to the labor attorney and find out if we're getting any results.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, do I have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing hiring, firing? Let's see,
So moved.
hiring, firing, and
Specific contract negotiations.
and specific contract negotiations relative to the police department.
We have 15 minutes to do
Second.
this, so.
Okay? Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried.
And
Can release
what,
those.
Yeah.
what do we tell our video guy? Does he just get to go home?
Yeah, I don't know if
after
we'll
11 o'clock? Or now?
take that